Lopez starting, Joseph filling in time and coming in as a substitute? And is it Bello sitting, getting ready for Orlando, and starting Mikey on the left at the back? Those were the two questions that I had going into tonight.
I mean, we covered it. It's possible. It just depends on fitness.
Yeah.
It just depends on the fitness.
And so that's those were the two that I had, and what it's going to look like on the right with Jurgen Damm as well.
Or Jake Mulroney. Or
Jake Mulroney.
Somebody else.
Yes. Yeah, as I was drawing my triangles here, as you were discussing things, it was like Dom/Mulroney and triangles and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, all of those are possible. All right, we are getting ready for Jon Arnold to join us here in just a bit. Jarrett, final thoughts from you on this match tonight?
Same as said earlier. I mean, you're going to play your style. Just don't make mistakes. Don't make any silly mistakes that let them back into the game. You're going to play your style, and you're going to do your thing. So don't change up who you are. I don't expect you to. Don't play your style. Don't make silly mistakes. I guess, like you talked about earlier, I don't mean it in a disrespectful way, but you showed you're better than them 11 on 11. Play like that tonight. You'll be fine.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you showed it. You were the better team. You know, they had one shot in the first half, or two shots, one when it was 11v11. You showed you could control the game. You showed you could create opportunities. Can you convert on said opportunities? That's going to be the key. Who's your man of the match tonight, Jarrett? Who's the most important player?
Sosa.
Okay.
I think they're going to throw things at you. And it's going to be important to have guys like a Miles Robinson do his thing, but I think Sosa is going to be very important on sitting with that back line, sitting in front of it at times if he gets if he takes a step forward in helping diffuse things.
I think he's critical to Atlanta's success, absolutely, because I think if they do go with two up top, he's the one who can give you that extra protection. If not, then he's going to be on the ball in more advanced positions, which is something I'm looking forward to seeing. Another question we haven't even gotten into yet as we wait to get with Jon, goalkeeper. I think Gabriel Heinze made it a little bit of a puzzle. That was easy to figure out, but still a puzzle. Ben Lundgaard and Rocco Rios Novo are the two goalkeepers available here. Who starts? If Lundgaard is fully cleared and fit, who gets the start for you, Jarrett?
I'm really tempted to say Lundgaard. It's not a disrespect to Novo. Rios Novo, excuse me. With some respect on both those names.
Yes.
It's not a disrespect to him, but I mean, I'm really tempted to say Lundgaard because he does have more experience. But I'll understand if you go with the hot hand. Just make sure you put some stickum on his gloves this time.
A little bit of that.
Please. Because that is one thing that kind of scares me in a game like this where I expect them, if they can't break down Atlanta's back line, I expect them to take some shots from distance. And if that's going to happen, then I do want to make sure I got a goalkeeper that's not going to spill it.
Yeah, he showed a little bit of that last time around, and that was something.
Some of that was nerves.
Yeah, I think so too. It concerned me at times, but Johnny did show an ability with the ball at his feet and a confidence level with the ball at his feet that was really nice to see.
No doubt, and got the chance to see that in Birmingham, and it was reinforced in game state. And I think that with Rocco Rios Novo, this is where I would disagree with Jarrett. The fact that Rocco had reps, and he's had reps in competition so far this season. I know that Lundgaard is older, more experienced, but he doesn't have any game reps this year. And to throw him out there in this situation, for me, would be a bit of an ask. So I would go with Rocco Rios Novo here as my starter coming into tonight, considering of what he did last week leading into tonight.
Yeah, I would too, just because of the relative sharpness, unless Lundgaard's lighting it up in training. If Lundgaard had got some time in preseason, I would have played him here because he's got more professional experience. He doesn't have any experience in 2021 because of being banged up a little bit. So I would probably go with Rocco Rios Novo here as well. especially if you're going to do the short-term call-up, short-term contract, because you're going to have to. So, yeah, I would probably give him the game in this one. And, yeah, he's going to have to be a little bit sharper with his hands for sure.
Yes.
All right, Jarrett, are you going to join us at some point on the watch-along tonight?
There's a distinct possibility that will happen.
That's a frightening possibility. Thanks for hanging out. We're going to get Jon Arnold on the line. We'll talk to you a little bit later, Jarrett.
All right. Y'all take care.
All right. Jon Arnold is going to join us right now. Jon is from the Striker, Texas, which is a really good new outlet, covers the game in Texas. And also, and I've mentioned it on the show before, the Getting ConcaCaf newsletter, which is a hilarious name anyway. But it's the best place for all the stories underneath everything when it comes to CONCACAF. All the additional little bonus stories that are behind the scenes that are a little, under the radar here. And it's fun to get a lot of that from Jon. Having a little bit of Skype difficulty here, so bear with me for a minute. Jon, if we got any questions on Twitter, go ahead and grab them real fast.
Will do. So let me save the update that I was going to promote Jon with here. But going back to other stuff, scanning quickly, Carlos Rangel, just out of curiosity, did Tata, Frank de Boer, or Stephen Glass make the team have concentrations before games like they're doing under Heinze? I know a lot of teams over the world do it, but just curious if it was done before in Atlanta.
I don't think it was. I don't know if Tata did. It would definitely be something that Tata would have been, comfortable doing, because it's something from the culture that he is common with. I don't remember them doing that, though, under him.
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't talked about if they did. So that's a weird one. I don't think so. Frank, it didn't happen, because that's not as much of the culture from Frank. But, yeah, that's a weird one. I don't think they did under Tata.
Yeah. I can't remember any under Tata, and definitely not under Frank. So that one was an interesting one for me. And did you see the play-by-play voice? I think, the play-by-play voice of the Revs, Brad Feldman, and how he referred to the matchup tonight.
I did not. What did Feldy have to say?
Feldy said that the Atlanta United's opponent is, we call that partial Wallenze.
Nice. I think we have Jon Arnold with us now. Jon, are you with us? There he is. Now he's joined. Jon, how are you? Jon, are you there?
I am.
There we go.
There we go.
Battling Skype. We don't have fancy producers around here, so we're doing the show and trying to get you up as well. Thanks for bearing with me. I appreciate it. Jon, let me start with this. Looking at the first legs from the CONCACAF Champions League and how everything went, I know a lot of people zeroed in on MLS's unbeaten record. Does this feel like a different CONCACAF Champions League for the MLS sides, in your opinion?
Not yet, I don't think. Obviously it's a good start. I think today is pretty critical. You guys in Atlanta are plugged into what's going on with the Five Stripes. I think the Timbers have an opportunity to get a result that would be pretty big. So I think when you look at, kind of what MLS has come to expect in this competition, I would say this is sort of similar to what we've seen in previous years. So I think it's a little early to get too excited and celebrate. But yeah, sure, it's a good start. It's definitely positive for MLS teams overall, but I don't know that it's too different from previous years.
In CONCACAF these days, Jon, what should the expectation level be for an MLS side going into this tournament? What should they expect to do these days? Whereas in the past you had having trouble on the road at places like Saprissa when they were above 500, things like that. What should the expectation be for an MLS side these days in CONCACAF?
Well, I mean, I think it's fair to hold MLS to a higher standard than maybe the Central American clubs, but I think like when you look at what the Mexican teams expect, they typically expect to win, right? Because a Mexican team has won this competition every single time. So that's the expectation in Mexico. I don't know that should be the expectation in MLS right now, but certainly if you're an ambitious team, I think LAFC even last year, right? Or 2020. It's all blending together, gentlemen. But,
I'm right there with you.
It was end of last year that LAFC almost beat Tigres in the final, right? And that was their ambition, and it should have been. I think an ambitious MLS team should say, yeah, we can win this whole thing because why not? But obviously you're going to run into some good Liga MX teams in the process, and even some good Central American teams, because Olimpia making the semifinals last year, I think, was a great reminder that, look, we love talking about MLS versus Mexico. Clearly that competition is going to continue to grow with Leagues Cup, with the leagues kind of making eyes at each other in a lot of ways, whether that gets across the line or not. Like, clearly MLS and Mexico, are just going to be more closely related as the business interests kind of keep intertwining. But don't forget about these Central American teams, right? There are very good teams. Liga visiting Atlanta is an example, despite the fact that they don't have some of their top players, as I'm sure you guys have chatted about. Olimpia still looking good. They gave America a really good game. I think they're going to get eliminated. That's a tough draw. But I guess to answer the question of what should MLS teams expect, if you're an ambitious MLS team, you should expect to make the final and try and win the thing. Because truly, I do think we'll talk about the first MLS team that wins this for a really long time. I really do think it's going to be something that's historic and kind of makes a mark. And so that opportunity is still out there, as it has been for a dozen years now. So I don't see any reason why teams shouldn't think they could win this and set their roster up to make a run at it, because I do think it's achievable. Mexican teams are still on top. There's no doubt about it. They've won every single time. I don't even know that the quote-unquote gap is closing, but I think there can be one or two teams that do it, right? That win the thing. So why not set your expectations there and try and win, especially in a year like this one where the competition has been spaced out because of the COVID-19 pandemic, to where if you have a good week this week, you get to start your MLS season, kind of getting a little bit more rhythm. Then you have the next round, and then you have a lot of time to prepare, even make transfers for that next round. So I think this year sets up well for ambitious MLS teams.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Let's talk about maybe the gap closing on the other end a little bit, because I love your newsletter, and I love getting the stories that we don't talk about enough in this country about CONCACAF. And one of the big stories in the tournament so far was Arcaí with their draw against a very less than first-rate Cruz Azul. But it's still the first time you had a result like that in a long time. How do you feel the maybe lesser Central American teams and the Caribbean teams are edging up to your Olympias, to your Alajuelenses, to your Saprissas? Is that gap closing?
It's possible. I was really surprised, honestly, to see Arcaí do as well as they did, because it's a team that, look, the situation in Haiti is rough, not talking about sports, right? And then you try and play soccer in that situation. This is a team that they tried to play their domestic final and it got suspended because of a gun violence incident at the final, like in the game, so not on the field, but, still like at the stadium, right? And then you had Belize getting held up when they were in Haiti just a few weeks ago for the World Cup qualifier. So things are tough, and I think you've seen another manifestation of that in Arcaí trying to get to Mexico for the return leg. They ended up getting there. The delegation arrived. I saw 20 players in an Instagram photo in Toluca, so they still got to take a little bit of a quick bus ride. So that's not too bad, but that's where they ended up, right? And that, I think, due to some support from CONCACAF to help from, I'm sure, various officials and people who stamp papers and all sorts of things in government offices, right? So, all that to say, they'll have to try and do it again on the field, but you have to like what you saw in the first leg. Guglielmin, the goalkeeper, historic performance, I guess, heroic performance. He had a really nice game, and they're able to keep Cruz Azul off the scoreline. A Cruz Azul team that, it was not at all their first choice, but you had some starters in there. You had Elias Hernandez, Rafa Baca, guys who are, first 11 regularly or first 11 caliber, and then you had some youth guys. And we talk about the depth and the difference between the Mexican team's depth and even MLS team's depth. Well, that can certainly apply for Haitian teams, right? So I think that right now it's an interesting moment because I think the new format of the CONCACAF Champions League, while it's designed to have more of that MLS versus Mexico play, it's also designed to give some of these Caribbean teams more regular games, more of a leg up potentially, maybe get more of a rhythm before they have to play these games. Similarly for Central America, and we'll have to see what it looks like with this new club tournaments that they're rolling out in Central America and the Caribbean. But it does seem like the leaders in CONCACAF are committed to getting things going in the right direction and sort of realize that these Caribbean teams, like, while it's quite impressive what Arcaí did, you never expect that, and right. I don't think they should be expected to win in the second leg either. And I think hopefully that changes at some point because, well, I do think the CONCACAF Champions League is becoming something that's more closely approaching a Libertadores, maybe a UEFA Champions League. Even in Libertadores, where typically the Argentines and the Brazilian teams are there for the last 2-3 rounds, you can get a good run from a Colombian team, a team from Ecuador like an Independiente del Valle. You wouldn't be surprised to see, Chilean team La U or Colo Colo or this year Católica do something. So I think the more that can be fostered, the better the competition can be. And I think the CONCACAF realizes that. So Arcaí, I think, is an outlier. I don't think that's the trend of football in the region necessarily, but if they can reverse that trend, I think it'd be all the better for MLS teams, for Mexican teams, and for the entire competition.
When it comes to the underdogs going into the second legs, what underdog do you think can come up and bite the team that's currently leading after leg one?
I don't love any upsets, to be honest with you.
Are we talking chalk here?
No, I don't think so, because my big kind of upset pick was Liga Alajuelense. Sorry, Atlanta fans. I know, and it wasn't anything personal. I just really, really like the squad that they have put together. But these absences of the players that took part in the national team game, combined with the absence of Marcel Hernandez, who can't travel because of legal reasons, right. A concerning situation there. Yeah. When you look at the absences that they have, Atlanta should be able to protect an existing first leg lead against this edition of Alajuelense. You talk about depth, and they even are able to rotate some players in the domestic league, but it doesn't quite compare. Even though the squad is really well built, I thought they were going to have a chance to run to the semifinals. When you look at the absences they have, I just don't think that's realistic. So they were my biggest pick to kind of turn things around, and with the situation unfolding the way it has, I think it's going to be difficult. Timbers have a bit of a scare, I think. That 2-2 wasn't extremely impressive. Marathon, it's a team that tends to play down, I think, to its competition. Emilio Izaguirre was speaking yesterday and said, we're beating the good teams. It's the weaker teams that we have trouble with. And I think that's definitely borne itself out in the results that they've had recently. And then they are able to get a draw against the Timbers. But in Portland, you have to say the advantage is obviously with the Timbers. Like I said, Arcaí, wow, great first leg. I'd be surprised if we're talking about him again here in the second. And the Union got to be careful as well. So I think you're looking at a relatively chalk CCL, if you want to use kind of the gambling or March Madness term, at least in the first round. But then you look at some of the crosses, some of the games that are coming up next, and it could get pretty interesting here when the MLS teams and Mexico teams beyond just TFC León start to go head-to-head, and when some of these other guys start to kind of get in the mix. But I do think we're looking at, it'd be a big disappointment for MLS teams if they're not able to capitalize on this start that they've had, because like you're saying, Jason, you're like, hey, is this the time? Is something different? And I'm saying not yet, but it's not yet, right? It could turn into something, but not if you get bounced first round, not if Atlanta isn't careful, doesn't take advantage of their opportunity, not if the Timbers don't make the most of their home field advantage, and not if the Union let their anger get the best of them after that weird call at the end and turn off against a weak Saprissa, one of the worst Saprissas that we've seen, honestly, in the last decade. So I'm not calling any upsets here. The one I called, I think, is off the table, and I'll eat that one. I always say, I'm not good for betting advice, but I can kind of give the panorama. But if you put all your money on Liga Alajuelense to win the CONCACAF Champions League based on my advice, I apologize.
Well, let's get into the toss-up one in this round, the Toronto-Leon one. Toronto was a little bit of a surprise for me. We didn't really know what to expect under Chris Armas' first game. They were very beat up. It's been a weird preseason for them with a COVID outbreak at one point. What do you think it looks like now, second leg? We're not going to Toronto, but you're going to Kissimmee. Is Leon the favorite here, or can Toronto find a way through?
No, it's a real shame. I mean, look, I guess this is what we talk about in sports the last year, right? It's a shame that we can't have the full Alajuelense team in Atlanta to see that battle. It's a shame that we can't have Toronto and in BMO with fans, and I don't even know what the weather's up there right now, but I just stereotype snow for Toronto, but I'm sure that's not the case. So, it's a bummer that we can't see that game. Is Leon the favorite? Maybe just based on past performance. I think that they could put a stronger lineup out than they did in the first leg. Their team was good, but not all encompassing, and they missed a lot of opportunities. You look at Angel Mena; he's an Ecuador international. He's one of the best players on their title teams, and he missed 4 opportunities that, quite frankly, you and I could have scored in that first leg. So if they're able to create chances in the same way, if they get maybe some more production or even, bring in some of the typical starters that they can bring in, that they can lean on, I think that Nacho Ambriz's team is going to be tough. But, Chris Armas' squad, like you're saying, Jason, it was pretty impressive what a lot of the young guys did. Jacob Schaffelberg, that's not a name I was expecting to learn as quickly as we did. I thought he had a good first game. Marco Delgado always seems to be pretty solid whenever the time comes around for this kind of tournament, and he's kind of been around on this stage. And then you've got the experience of Bradley, so and Omar at the back, right? So I like this time, and I mean, this is the kind of game that I think we're going to be seeing in the next rounds, where maybe the MLS team is the underdog, even though it's quote unquote the home leg, but certainly wouldn't count them out because of what they showed in the first leg and the kind of squad that they have built and the experience that they have in this tournament in a lot of these cases.
Nothing like being good busy this time of year, John, because you're dealing with CONCACAF Champions League, you're dealing with MLS, with what's going on at Stryker, Texas, and full disclosure, I have subscribed to both, so I'm keeping an eye on everything that's going on. What's it like being a good busy with a competition that has a lot of promise for MLS and being involved in a project that has new stuff going on with MLS that a lot of folks are being interested in with what's going on at Austin?
Yeah, it's extremely exciting, and good busy. Certainly, I definitely feel like at very small social gatherings, which I'm at again, which is great. That's kind of in the term. Hey, how's it going, man? Oh yeah, busy, but it's good, and it is, right? And I think last year taught us that we need to be excited about these games and about these competitions, because I think even though CONCACAF pulled it off in a good way at the end of last year, the CONCACAF Champions League was, something that we miss and still miss, right? Like we're saying, we don't have that full atmosphere. We're not going to have, what we're used to, and we cross our fingers and pray and hope that the scientists and everyone can get us back to that atmosphere maybe as soon as the semifinals, right? Fingers very much crossed, but it's nice, and thanks for mentioning the Stryker, Texas. Austin FC, there's so much momentum there. It's definitely an Atlanta situation. I think Atlanta's really set the blueprint in a lot of ways for expansion teams, certainly on the field, which I'm not 100% convinced that Austin will be able to replicate. But off the field, when you see the scenes from the closed friendly, and there's fans banging drums, playing trumpets, singing, chanting through megaphones, blowing off some smoke, it really does look not like Atlanta necessarily, although y'all did do that in Atlanta. It looks like Buenos Aires. It looks like Monterrey. It looks like these footballing cities in the Americas, and that's very, very exciting. And Austin is a market where, look, I did not go to the University of Texas. I have my feelings about UT just on a sporting level. They just sold my team's basketball coach, Texas Tech's basketball coach. So, the less said, the better about UT. But most people in Austin, they have no loyalty to a pro team that's from Austin, right? Yeah. And now they're able to do that. So even though Austin's a very small market population wise. I think culturally, look, like Matthew McConaughey is doing a Zoom with reporters today. That doesn't happen anywhere else, right? But Austin is this unique blend of kind of your Hollywood, but also your kind of tech guys and your kind of traditional musicians that made that city such a cultural hotbed for so long. And I'm a little jealous because I'm sitting up the interstate 3 hours here in Dallas, and we've got a cool culture here too. But the soccer has never been able to be part of that. Since 1996, really since the team moved up north to the suburbs, it's been difficult to find that same excitement. But yeah, we're having a lot of fun on the Striker Texas, talking about Austin, talking about FC Dallas, talking about the Dynamo, and talking about the Dash, and talking about El Paso Locomotive and everything. It's a really exciting project. So appreciate your subscription, appreciate people checking it out. But yeah, we're definitely keeping a lot of balls in the air with CCL, with MLS, with the qualification. Just taking a brief break. It's going to be back before we know it here in June, and then July it's going to be Gold Cup time, and the U.S. and Mexico get involved, and they're going to be a Nations League Final Four as well. But you also got these great stories that I try and mine for getting CONCACAF, where we'll be talking the islands, we'll be talking Central America. So it's fun, guys. Like I said, last year taught me, and I think taught all of us, like, man, we can't take this for granted. So fingers crossed everything keeps going off, and fingers crossed we're talking soon about CCL again, boys, and we're talking more about the Gold Cup and all that stuff. So it's been fun. It is busy, but I can't complain, that's for sure.
John, can't thank you enough for taking some time for us this morning. We'll definitely be checking back in with you with everything going on out in Texas with the Striker Texas, and with such a busy CONCACAF year, on the club level, the national team level. There's just so much. Let everybody know where they can follow all of your work.
Yeah, I've made everything just a little bit too complicated to find. I always say that's the CONCACAF in me. My Twitter is @Arnold, John, but you have to spell out comma, and there's no H in John. So if you can find that, you can usually find all my work. My newsletter is called Getting CONCACAF. If you Google it, I think it pops up now. If not, I think it's getconcacaf.substack. One day, I or someone smarter than me will create just a johnsnewsletter.net or something, and it'll get you there. But for now, find the Twitter and you'll get there. And I know you guys will do a little retweet
We will.
or something and make sure people find it. But I appreciate it. And yeah, like I said, it's a little too complicated, but we'll get there.
Yeah, and folks in our timeline did want us to ask about what you thought about Chris Beard.
Oh, come on now. Come on. Listen, it's like I can't, the guy gave us a national championship final run. We lost in overtime, another kind of source of frustration for me. So you're really trying to color my morning in a negative way, but I'm not going to let you bring me down. Nah, we kind of wish the best of the guy, but, it's like you have to say that, kind of wish him the worst as well. Look, he was a good guy and he gave us a lot of good things. I don't know, it's not the same situation, but how do Atlanta fans feel about Tata? You love the guy, right? But he gave you a title, which Beard didn't quite give us. He almost did. And then he left for a job that it's yeah, that's totally different. That's better. And it's not like Atlanta United's playing L3 every weekend, right? We're going to have to play this guy. So, yeah, I got some feelings, as you can tell, but we'll talk about that on the SDH basketball show whenever you guys launch that one.
Yeah, when we have basketball down here, we'll have a conversation about that one. John, have a good rest of the day. Thanks for everything, and thanks for taking some time for us.
Take care, guys. Enjoy this game tonight. All right, see you.
Will do.
Pretty good.
Arnold, John, make sure you're following him on social media. He is the best at CONCACAF coverage because you get the big stuff, but you also get the great stories like Montserrat. And my favorite that he wrote was the Puerto Rico Islanders run in the CONCACAF Champions League. Great stuff. We'll be talking to him more this season with everything going on. Austin, Dallas, Houston. Texas is going to be a big state for American soccer going forward. And Austin's inclusion, I know people have their feelings about Anthony Precourt. I know they have their ideas about this isn't right and blah, 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 and he's a bad guy. And I got the goosebumps that John was talking about when you see at a closed-door game fans banging drums and, up on a hill, and they got drone shots, finding them, and they're singing and they're chanting, and it's really cool. And I think that's going to be an amazing atmosphere, and it worked out for the best Columbus is in better position now with local ownership that I think will be more engaged. They ended up, Precourt bailed him out when they needed a buyer, and then he got what he wanted, and he gets the team in Austin that has just so much potential. So it's going to be fun, and we'll definitely be talking to Jon Arnold again this season.
Yeah, and as a guy who likes to dig for stories and tell those kinds of stories, when Jon can give you that Puerto Rico Islanders story, when he can give you what's going on with the Caribbean nations when it comes to CONCACAF, all of those, the great stories that fly below the radar, having as I said, full disclosure, subscribe to both, because I want to hear about these stories in these hotbeds and how things are continuing to develop. But when you can tell the good features as well, it's good stuff. And to have Jon on was a really nice treat this morning.
Perfect. Tommy knows the landscape out in Texas as well. He said it's a hotbed of youth players too, men and women, and the Houston Dash. I'm glad Jon mentioned them too. Striker Texas is going to cover all of that, USL, every bit of it. So definitely worth your subscription. At a minimum, worth your Twitter follow to make sure you know what's going on and what they've got coming up. A couple of on this days that are important. I think last week we talked a little bit about the start of MLS and the anniversary of game number 1 between DC and San Jose. 1996 on this date was the first full weekend in MLS, and you had a couple of games that I remembered seeing highlights from. I mean, it was hard to find this stuff. Like if you had a sports bar with a satellite dish and you could give them a channel and they could find, Sports Channel Florida or whatever, where these games are being covered, you could do that. And I did that in the summer of 96. I don't know if you remember the Damon's Steakhouses. Sports bar, steakhouse. They had giant
Underground
TVs.
Atlanta.
Well, they had one in Stockbridge, and we would anger the manager by going in there on like a random Wednesday for some game in the Cotton Bowl for the Dallas Burn or something, and good stuff. But you had Tampa Bay Mutiny play their first match ever at Tampa Stadium. They beat the New England Revolution 3-2. But the big one on this weekend that opened a lot of eyes for MLS and what it could be was at the Rose Bowl. LA Galaxy defeated the Metro Stars in the first match for both teams. 69,255 on hand. That was the largest attendance for a regular season match up until Atlanta and Orlando in 2017. And it was a game where they thought they'd draw 30,000, and they had tarps. And then they're like, well, maybe we'll get to 40. Okay, maybe we'll get to 45. And people kept buying tickets and coming in and moving the tarps and finding a place to sit. It was also the game where Jorge Campos had some kind of clause in his contract about a car, and he demanded that it be upgraded after drawing that kind of a crowd because he said it was him who drew that crowd, and he's probably right. Mm-hmm. And I think he ended up, I want to say he got a Lamborghini out of it.
I think you're right.
I think it was a Lambo that he got out of it. The league had to send a league employee down to go buy the car for Jorge Campos as part of his MLS contract. Because welcome to MLS in 1996. Kobe Jones scored the first goal for the Galaxy in that one. All right, it is 10 o'clock. That means it is time for John Nelson to tell us about our good friend, one of our longtime supporters here on the network, Steve Apolinsky in Decatur, GA.
Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, only one place you need to go, 3 ways that you can do it. To check in with Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, you can shoot Steve an email directly, steve@aa-legal.com. You can give him a phone call, 404-377-9191. Get a free consultation that way, or you can go on the World Wide Web, large device or small. Type in aa-legal.com, hit the enter key, the return key, the arrow key, whatever advances you to your homepage, regardless of the size, and you can find out all the information that you need about Apolinsky & Associates. All the different cases that they handle, all the different accolades that they have received in their time as a firm. And if you still have questions after looking at the homepage and pulling down all the tabs, there's a pop-up window that pops up low right-hand corner because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Thank you, Chris Hutchison, as always. And you can get your questions answered that way. Over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for clients in 2 time zones, the Eastern and the Central, for clients in Georgia and Alabama, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, only one place you need to go. It is Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, and the website is aa-legal.com.
Kind of plowed through that ending there. That's interesting.
Well, it's like sometimes I feel like I have to plow through the ending, and sometimes I'll take the time not to plow through it because I know that I get complaints either way of like, where's the pause? He paused. He gets a negative. He gets points docked. He didn't pause. He gets points docked. So I feel like sometimes I have to pause. Sometimes I don't. So I'm working both sides of the street here.
Here we go. You don't please anybody when you do that, John. You gotta listen to the criticism and understand that sometimes the people who are criticizing might be wrong, and you gotta trust your gut a little bit more here. You can't play both sides of the street because then you please nobody.
I got 5 days of the week to do it. So so 2 days of pleasing folks, 2 days of pleasing the other folks, and 1 day of making sure that I'm happy about my reading.
Well, then people just remember the 2 or 3 days that they weren't happy. So that's not really working. Just saying. Also, Ricky Ricardo had a question. Are you going to be at the State Farm Arena next year to see Bad Bunny in concert?
That will be a no.
Why do you have to be like that about it?
Just not a Bad Bunny musical person.
Okay, why you gotta hate?
I'm not hating, I'm participating.
No, you're not participating, actually. You're not going. That's not participating. It's the opposite of participating.
I'm participating in this discussion. I'm not participating in a Bad Bunny concert.
I thought he would have won you over with his excellent wrestling performance at WrestleMania.
He did win me over with his excellent wrestling performance. I'm still not listening to his music with any great regularity, though.
You should. Didn't you like his entrance?
I saw it with the mute button on.
Why would you do such a thing?
Because I was multitasking.
What else were you doing?
I was over here sitting at the computer in Office HD trying to get things ready for the Monday show.
On Saturday night?
Yeah. Oh, then Saturday night I was trying to finish book 6. That's what I was doing.
Okay, that's a better answer, but still. You need to put some respect on Bad Bunny's name, sir.
I'll put respect on his wrestling skills. I give him full credit for some of the spots that he did in the match. And I also give The Miz and John Morrison just as much credit for helping put him over in the match, and also for what they were continuing to do to tell the storyline last night on Raw.
No, 100%. But you need to respect Bad Bunny. Sean Vergara, riding his birthday high, and it's game day, so this is the only time this score will happen. 9.9995.
Not quite there, but okay.
JP says 8.5. Come on, John. You should be averaging a 9.5 at this point.
Oh, wow.
I would agree with that. 9.7. That was a good read. On another call, blind 7.5 today. 9.95. I still want to know what another accolade they have is.
Atlanta Magazine recognized them as one of the top firms in their classifications. That's the word I'm looking for.
Good job. Abby, 7.5. Started off like a race car, slowed down a little. Awkward pause. It's game day in person. That got +2. So quick ending -2 more. So 7.5. If it wasn't a game day in person, it would have been a 5.5.
Okay.
The pause is needed, according to Sean. A little pause, I think, is always needed. Not just boom. Nick Alifi says, John is under a lot of pressure with these scores. Heel turn? Maybe. Get it, Kaiser said, never get to listen live, so this will be my only score. Going to make it an enthusiastic 10 out of 10. Well, thank you for listening live, Get it, Kaiser. And anytime. Yes. We have lots of things going on over here on the Twitch, even when it's not like a podcast or a normal show. Like we'll have the watch along tonight. There won't be like a normal broadcast, but we'll be watching the game and talking about it, and I'll be taking some questions and such. And then John will check in from the stadium at halftime and after the match, and we'll hopefully be talking about Atlanta advancing to the CONCACAF Champions League quarterfinal.
What you said.
5 takes gives you a 9.5. MLS is looking good in CONCACAF. John had back-to-back great reads. What a time to be alive. Brad says, don't ride the fence. Make a decision, 9.5. 5-stripe forklifter, 10 out of 10. And I know you had a question earlier, and I wasn't able to work it in, so please throw it back out. We'll take some questions here until we get Dylan Butler on at 10:30 to talk MLS and such. Yes, Walchara, Bad Bunny was at WrestleMania. Oh, didn't know Bad Bunny until WrestleMania. There you go. Good stuff. I mean, yeah, I think for him, it put him in front of a different audience. So I think it was a good business decision for him, and
exactly,
he respected what he was doing. I mean, he put in a ton of work to be able to do it. It's the best celebrity performance in a WWE situation ever. I don't think there's anybody close. I mean, Tyson didn't wrestle. Like, Tyson was just a character, and he was just himself. There's nothing to that. Bad Bunny didn't just do the basics. I mean, he put on a good match, and he understood the flow of it, and he's a big fan. And I know he had to love doing it, so full credit to him.
Yep.
I hope it worked. Yes, Ricky, if his stage is a ring, Ricky will lose it. Good stuff. Okay, March 22nd, 2022. When do tickets go on sale, Ricky? Let everybody know for Bad Bunny fans who are wanting to get in on that one. Still blows my mind that we're buying tickets for shows like a year out. Yeah. I remember back in the day, it's like, the show's coming in a month. Go buy tickets. Crazy.
Ticketmaster, 9 a.m.
Yeah, 8.25 out of 10 from Soccer for Good OG. Question, though, since the WWW has been around since the 90s, do we really need to know how to advance to the homepage?
After hitting the enter key, the return key, or the arrow key?
John doesn't really know. So Soccer for Good OG, yeah, we probably still have to remind some people just occasionally.
Those of a certain demographic, I'm sure.
Yeah. Shiva, any discussions about Don Garber's comments yesterday? Not yet. Any specific ones you want to get into? Because he had a lot to say. And, I mean, that's his job. He's got to talk a lot. And he's got to talk about a lot of different things. I thought, off the top of my head, he undersold Daryl Dike a little bit. I would have been more aggressive there, but that's generally how I feel about this league, is I'm going to be big and bold on it. I would have said he's a $30 million player, knowing that $20 million would be a perfectly acceptable amount of money to take.
Yeah, oversell it.
Yeah, I would. I mean, he's got to be the promoter. He's got to push that a little bit. The Liga MX stuff, I mean, look, it's becoming an inevitability as we see the Necaxa purchase of half of the club from people involved with DC United, from Eva Longoria. I mean, it's a very interesting conglomeration of folks buying half of Necaxa at a really good price. Why would you do that? I think because of the potential long-term of some form of a Super League and what that could mean. It feels like a really good investment. A lot of love for Bad Bunny on WrestleMania with that. 5-strike forklifter. With Moreno back, would you start Ibarra over Heinemann? He looked good moving forward and seems like he wins the ball back better than Heinemann from what I saw. Let me start there, and I'll get the second part in a second. He's a different player. He does win the ball back better. He's more of a defender first. Heinemann's more of an attacker first. I think a lot of it depends on what you need here. Now, I would not be surprised in this match if Ibarra started over Heinemann, if that's the decision you make, because you don't know exactly what Alajuelense is going to do formation-wise. So where Ibarra becomes really, really valuable is when Sosa does have to drop into that back line because he's comfortable playing a little bit deeper. And if he's paired with Ezequiel Barco, Barco's going to be higher up the field. Like that 2 in the midfield might get a little staggered with Ibarra sitting a little bit more if Sosa has to drop into the back line because Alajuelense plays with 2 up top. So I think today, because of that unknown factor, Ibarra could get the start. In general, I think that position is better suited to Heinemann. Today's a little bit of a unique situation, so you might go with Ibarra here. Heinemann was, I think I said, better than fine in the description on the run-up. He has to be better than that to consistently get time. Whoever is playing in that other central midfield role has to be better than fine, and better than fine to get time. Because if they don't, somebody else is going to jump up and take it, whether it is Ibarra over Heinemann, whether it is Tyler Wolff over Ibarra, whether it's Mateo Sosechu when he gets back, whatever's going on with that. If he gets back, he could win that spot. Mo Adams could win that spot. I really think Mo Adams could win that spot and be a very interesting two-way player in that kind of role. But the competition is going to be strong. I think Barco will get a lot of time at the other position, but he's got to deliver too. So it's good. Internal competition will drive this team forward. Second one from the forklifter. Speaking of Heinemann, I've had difficulty noticing him on the field. What would you say is his greatest contribution? I think finding pockets of space. I think he's really good at feeling the game out, and in this way of playing, that's what you're trying to create, is that spacing. It's why I think it's really suited to him. He has to make the most of the opportunity, though. I mean, if you're not noticing him a lot, that's a problem, especially in this kind of role. If he's playing in a deeper position, okay, cool. We talk about holding midfielders a lot, but in general, if your holding midfielder is being noticed, something's going wrong. Hyndman, in this kind of role, he's going to be expected to create chances and finish chances. So we've got to notice him more. But finding space, I really think he feels the game really, really well. Friday at noon for your Bad Bunny tickets. Thank you, Carlos. Let's see. Will wants to give Pat McAfee credit in his first match. He was a fun character in his match, NXT. But as a wrestler, I mean, he's a better athlete than Bad Bunny, but I think the performance from Bad Bunny was better. I do. Yeah. I really do. Okay. Abby wanted to know about the talk about who is starting. My guess, Robinson and Walks in the back centrally, Rocco Rios Novo in goal, Lennon on the right. I have a feeling for Ambrose on the left. It should be Bello. I think normally it would be Bello. If there's any concern about his legs, you go with Ambrose. Sosa in the holding midfield spot, who can drop into the back line if the situation in the game calls for it. I'll go Ibarra because of what we just talked about, and I'll go with Barco centrally. I'm going to go with Moreno on one side. I'm going to go with Lisandro Lopez up top because I think Joseph, you want him to start on Saturday. And on the right side, I think it should be Jurgen Damm, but if there's something we don't know, if it's Jake Mulroney, it's Jake Mulroney. But it should be Jurgen Damm. That's why you brought him here. And would love to see him in the situation. But, again, you got to earn the time. You got to earn those minutes, and you got to fight for him every day in training. So we'll see on that right side. It feels like it should be Jurgen Damm, but maybe there's something we don't know. Maybe that's why Mulroney got the opportunity last time. And Jake played well. Had to be sacrificed because of the situation, but he played well. But that's my guess. I think you have Ibarra there as extra cover just in case Sosa has to drop into the back line. Let's see here. Shiva, the new designated player rules from Don Garber's comments yesterday, you're going to have to explain that one a little bit more. Was it about more of the U22 side of things? Exactly what are we getting into there? Let's put it in the Twitch pitch and we'll get to it. Sean Vergara wants to bring you a beer tonight. He'll give it to somebody else, Sean. He won't drink it.
That is, working,
I would if I was there.
Yeah, working, I can't have them, and I do not drink alcohol. So buy one and pay it forward. How about that?
There we go. Give it to another one of the fans out there who's in the Twitch pitch. I'm sure somebody will take that beer from you.
Yeah.
Take him a Mountain Dew. That would be if you had Mountain Dew at the.
Well, actually,
no,
then that would mean if it would have to be a Diet Dr. Pepper, especially because during the show I will have had my one Mountain Dew for the day.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have to get him something diet. Sean, I know it's very difficult.
Yeah. It is.
He will come at you like a spider monkey if he gets hopped up a Mountain Dew. That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Carlos says odds on Sosa to make the Olympics. He played the U20 World Cup with Barco. He hasn't been in the mix with that group. He will turn heads if he plays the way that he did here so far. It's possible. I don't know the roster well enough for the U23s with Argentina to tell you what the competition is for that spot. I'd say it's a little bit of a wild card just because he hasn't been part of the mix with that group where Barco did move up to the U23 group and was involved in it. So I'll say it's a wild card. But he's going to get consistent playing time week in, week out for the first time in his career. So that could change really quickly because of that. Katie wants to talk about Lucy Rushton going to D.C. Says it's a great opportunity for her. Hate to see her go, but well earned. She's been a really important part behind the scenes here in Atlanta. She's been somebody who has allowed the team to move a lot quicker in the transfer market because of the work she does to kind of narrow things down, have the list more narrow than just right wingers who are at this potential price point. Like she's able to go deeper and say right wingers who fit the way we play and do this or do that, who are undervalued, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. excellent with analytics, and it's been a really important part of the club, and it'll be a really important replacement for the club to make. General manager is a really different role. It's exciting that she's getting the opportunity, the second woman in Major League Soccer history to get that opportunity. She's walking into an interesting situation in DC because it is a odd roster. There's a lot of odd things going on with DC at the moment. Couple tweets out there. The lineup, Ola Kamara might be on the bench to start, and Eric Sorga might get the start, according to Stephen Goff. Andy Nahar has been trialing. They haven't signed him yet. Tony Alfaro, center back, was with Seattle, played for Reno last year. He's been trialing. They haven't signed him yet. Steve Birnbaum's out till June. I don't know if this kind of stuff has been going on behind the scenes for a while, and they didn't want Dave Casper to make signings yet. And, is she going to be ready to make signings day one? I don't know. You've got Sam Porter, the club's chief strategy officer, according to Pablo Maurer, being moved out of that role. He's going to be a consultant, but not involved in day-to-day. What in the world is going on with DC in the week before the opener?
Yes.
Why didn't you do this, I don't know, a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago? What?
Yeah.
So it's a tough spot to walk into. She's going to have a lot to do. She's going to have a lot of work to do, but with what we've seen here in Atlanta, she's ready for it.
Yeah. I mean, with Lucy, you have the analytics part brought into the equation, but it also, you have scouting that has to be an element of externally, not just, staring at monitors and looking at analytics and things, but the external scouting part of this, knowing the league, having those personnel that are attached to this. So what she brings is an incredible portion of the equation for success. I just hope that DC United surrounds her with all of the other elements that can add to her expertise so they can continue to succeed.
Yeah. Also speaking about Atlanta United alumni, Edgar Castillo is going to sign with FC Cincinnati, according to the Cincinnati Inquirer. He's been on trial. He's 34 now. He joined them on trial during their training stint in Orlando. And they only have Ronald Matarrita in that spot right now with any professional experience. So good spot for Castillo. Heard nothing but good things about him, off the field especially. Did a lot for George Bellows' development. Really pushed him hard last season in the limited amount of training time they had. Just got beat out. And I think maybe when he took the opportunity, he thought that he'd get more time, but Bellows' emergence made him surplus here. And you have to find a new spot. So him getting an opportunity in Cincinnati, it's good for him. Like I said, nothing but good things I've heard about Castillo in the locker room, off the field. So I'm happy he's landing somewhere.
Yeah, no question. And I thought it was a great depth piece when he was picked up. But the fact that he was there to be able to counsel George Bello with the work on the left, it's, again, great piece to have, great counsel for Bello. Good to see him hopefully have an opportunity at the next stop.
Yeah, it's a big one. What else we got on the Twitters? Anything, John?
Yeah, Nathan Pugh, before the show started this morning, a crisp sunrise, driving with the windows down, the smell of freshly cut dew-covered grass in the air on a game day really gets the blood pumping into these stripes, and he used a hashtag with the spike emoji.
Very nice.
So he's attached to that.
Nathan was paying attention.
Yes, he was. And there was, Colin Martz dropped a piece of news out of Austria, where from apparently Austria Vienna has been refused a Bundesliga license for 2021-22 for financial reasons. The club can now protest the decision by a week from tomorrow. One of the most storied clubs in the country, and the current team of Eric Palmer Brown having some issues in Austria. Yeah,
you've got more of this kind of stuff popping up with the financials for some clubs being a big, big issue. That's a surprising one. They wouldn't have been one that I would have thought, and maybe Bern can give us a little more insight on that. Haven't seen him on the Twitch pitch this morning, but our Austrian and German correspondent, Bern Dursberger, we'll see what pops up in the Discord, see what we can dig into on that. Also today, USA and France on a big, big women's friendly. Last time they met was the World Cup quarterfinal, 2019. France not at 100% at the moment. They beat England 3-1 on Friday. They didn't have a lot of their stars. COVID outbreak at Lyon forced 4 players, including Wendy Renard and Amandine Henry, to miss out on these April friendlies, so it's an issue. But Paul Kennedy at Soccer America had a really good point about France's women's player development system. He calls it the most ambitious in the world. They have a residential program that's been expanded to, I can't even try to pronounce this in French, Pour les Espoirs. Young women attend classes and train during the week. Soccer is increasingly embraced by young women from immigrant families with roots in North Africa, West Africa, the Caribbean, and other European countries, and in the surrounding Parisian region that has produced many of the French male stars. Now you're starting to see that emerge on the women's side. So very cool to see the growth in France. This will be a test. It won't be as big of a test as we thought it might be with no Renard, with no Henry, but it's a big game today. Do you have the kickoff time for that one?
2:10 on ESPN2, I believe.
There you go. Maybe the last really big game for the U.S. women before they get ready for the Olympics. I don't know what else they have planned for the summer. Players will go back to their NWSL clubs, a lot of them. Players will go back to other European clubs. They're playing there. But this is a big one. It's a big test. And we saw them against Sweden look so-so. Not great. It's getting a little bit more difficult for Vlatko Andonovski now as you get closer to the Olympics, and the level of competition you're playing goes up a good bit.
Yeah, and so this will be an interesting look for a lot of folks coming off of the 1-1 draw. Yes, I know that France is coming in shorthanded, but we know the quality of that roster, and so I want to see what Vlatko comes out with his starting 11 and how he wants to attack this one. Knowing that you're probably, in all probability, you might be facing them down the road when you come into the Olympics too.
No, they're not in the Olympics.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, they're not in the Olympics.
Sorry, I was thinking of World Cup. World Cup as we get closer to World Cup competitions, knowing that all that kind of stuff.
Yes. CONCACAF Champions League today. Atlanta's at 6 o'clock. Portland at Marathon at Providence Park is at 8 o'clock. Cruz Azul and Arcaí is at 10 o'clock. You also have Santos and San Lorenzo in Libertadores qualifying. That should be easy for Santos. They won the first leg in Argentina. They should be fine. UEFA Champions League, a couple little games to talk about. Chelsea in the pole position against Porto. I think they get through pretty comfortably, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm not too worried about that one. PSG and Bayern, on the other hand, will be fascinating. Neither team will be at full strength. Bayern has a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and it's getting talked about more and more publicly. The BBC had a big piece about it this morning. The behind-closed-doors meeting with Hansi Flick and the Bayern sporting director, it's a problem because Hansi Flick has a very big opportunity potentially in front of him if he wants the German national team job. And it's available. And he's been an assistant before. And if he's not happy dealing with this situation, and he's made it pretty clear lately, he feels like he doesn't have a strong enough roster. He feels like it was better last year. Some of the new guys they brought in have barely played up until they had injuries. He wants more control. And I don't think he's going to get it with the way this power battle is going. So if another opportunity presents itself, Bayern's going to have to make a decision between Hansi Flick and between the sporting director, Hassan Salihamidzic. They've got to make a decision here on what direction they go. And I would stick with Flick.
Yeah.
Because, just looking at the Bunassar, Mark Roca, Douglas Costa, we haven't seen much of them at all. And Flick might just say, you know what, I'm done with it. I'm just done with it. And the one thing you have to worry about is, after being the assistant for the German national team, Flick went to Hoffenheim as a chief exec. He quit the job after only 8 months. Dietmar Hopp, who's the financial backer of Hoffenheim, said it has become clear that there are different ideas regarding Hansi Flick's role and responsibilities. He said that at the time. Sounds a little familiar with Hansi Flick wanting more control over the transfer market, not getting it. BBC had a very good point here that I think Hansi Flick does have to consider. You got to be careful to not earn a reputation for quitting when you don't get what you want.
Right.
That could be part of his decision-making process. What happens today could be part of his decision-making process. What are the numbers on that one, and what did we pick last night? Because this was one of our picks of the week.
Okay, so let me get into the selections here as I dial up the odds in the injury report as well. So the selections that we had, you and Nick have Bayern, and this is once again, this is just today's result. This is not the two legs composite here. Jarrett picked PSG. I picked the draw. The numbers shifted slightly in Bayern Munich's favor. PSG is now almost a plus 200 to win today. Your draw is a plus 321. Bayern is a plus 118, down from a plus 124 when we made the selections last night.
I still feel good about Bayern. I think they're going to find a way through. I don't trust PSG.
Yeah.
I just don't. Well, why are you saying, yeah, you picked it the other way?
I know, but
so defend your pick.
This is this result. I said draw. I said
so
draw.
PSG would go through.
But I just, in the long term, when it comes to PSG, I never know which one I'm going to get, especially
you think you're getting a good one today? Because a draw would be a great result.
I'm talking about like down the road. It's like for me. I mean, you sit there, you look at what happened last weekend against Lille. You get that one where Lille completely handcuffs them in league play, and then you're ending up with a different team before that in the first leg of Champions League. In the long term, when it comes to getting a trophy on a European stage, I can't give it to them. They were not who I selected to win the whole thing. I've got Manchester City winning the whole thing. I just think that somewhere along the way, they always find that rut in the cement and they trip over it. And then they try to bounce up and look like, yep, we're okay.
But no. You think they get through Bayern today?
I think they get through Bayern today. Here's the injuries that we have. For Bayern, Lewandowski, Tolisso, Costa, Gnabry, Sula, Lucas Hernandez, and Goretzka. For PSG, Bernat, Marquinhos, Riccardi, and Kurzawa with an unknown injury. So that's your injury report. 7 for Bayern, 4 for PSG, although I don't know if Icardi should really count.
One more before we get into some MLS and some CCL talk with Dylan Butler of MLSsoccer.com. It is now official that Borussia Mönchengladbach has their manager. It is Adi Hüttler, who is leaving Eintracht Frankfurt. Activated his release clause, according to Frankfurt, and is leaving the club at the end of the season. He will take over at Gladbach next season, and of course, they play one another this weekend. Of course. Bild had reported yesterday it was a 2-year deal, 1-year option past that. Highest release clause in a contract for a coach in Bundesliga history in the new contract, 7.5 million euro. That's a lot. Well thought of. We'll see if he can get the job done for Gladbach. They need a fresh start next year. Big time. Big time. All right. Mateo is going to work on getting Dylan Butler on the line with us. Dylan writes for MLSsoccer.com. Excellent game previews. That's one of the big things that Dylan's involved in. We talk a lot leading up to games about what lineups are going to look like, what we think the opposition could look like. I pick his brain a good bit on that stuff. One of the best in the biz, who is also unavailable right now as we try to call him. So we're going to get this sorted out. Yeah, thanks. We'll figure it out. Mateo will work on it. What else are you looking for today? Okay, I got to catch him a different way. That's what it is. What else are you looking for in today's action in Champions League? You worried about Chelsea at all?
No. I think the biggest question for me is Porto going to score? And they probably will end up with one off of a set piece late, just to kind of monkey with your totals a little bit if you're into those kinds of things for juice boxes. So not necessarily worried about Porto, but I fully accept your theory about a deep Chelsea run because of how the bracket laid out. I still have Manchester City, obviously, is my favorite by the time that this whole thing is done. But yeah, your theory about looking at the bracket makes a whole lot of sense where Chelsea is concerned.
Yeah, it does kind of work for them here, and I think they're good. I think they did enough in the first leg. Dylan Butler is now joining us on Soccer Down Here. What's up, Dylan?
What's up? How are you?
Doing well. Jason and John with you this morning. We got a lot to talk about, I think, on two fronts with you. It's CONCACAF Day. It's CONCACAF Champions League second leg, and it's been a good tournament for MLS. But let's start with just the big picture with the league. You've got the season opener on Friday. You've got a ton of huge games on national TV this weekend. Does it feel like kind of the start of a new era? I don't know what we want to call this. Maybe we're just excited to have something that feels like normal again, but it feels big. It feels like a big start to the season.
It does. And I think having meaningful Champions League games right up against the start of the season helps. Like in previous years, you'd have Champions League in like February. It didn't feel like soccer weather, right? Like especially in the Northeast and areas like that. Now it does. It's a little bit warmer out, and you've got those big games butted up right against the start of the season. So I think that definitely helps.
Dylan, when it came to what Don Garber said yesterday in his, I guess, state of the before the season address, what were some of the highlights that stuck with you with what he said, what he addressed, and what he was asked about?
Well, one thing we know, there's a stadium in New York not going to happen anytime soon, but we kind of knew that, right? But listen, I think one of the more interesting kind of points and conversation pieces came. I think Brian Strauss asked it, about that sort of parallel between Columbus and the Save the Crew and the momentum that Austin has and sort of how those two things went hand in hand. And it took a lot. I don't think he necessarily thought there'd still be a team in Columbus. But not only is there's a team, right? Now there's a team that's going to have a new stadium. They're the defending MLS champions. And you could make the argument they have the best case of any of the MLS teams right now in the Champions League to be that elusive first MLS team to win it. So I think that's one of the more interesting things for me. Just sort of going from the potential death of the Crew to what they've become, and then the momentum that Austin's going to have. Or they've had coming up, not unlike what we saw in Atlanta and Seattle and other expansion years.
Columbus, I'm right with you. They're my favorite going into the season. I think they're the most complete, although now you got a couple of injuries to worry about with Molino missing some time. I think Nagby's going to be all right, but I know there's a little bit of concern there. Who else do you think is a legit MLS Cup contender going into the season?
I think if you look out west, I don't know if people have slept on them, but I think we're likely to see the return of LAFC in a big way this year, especially with Carlos Vela and back healthy. And you had what Rossi did a year ago, and they've made some improvements to their back line. I'm not sold yet goalkeeper wise. You still have two guys who have some moments of madness from time to time, but I think LAFC's you've got to put them right there. It's boring to say Seattle, right? But how can you not have them in the conversation? I like what Gio Savarese has done out in Portland as well. And then in the East, it's interesting because, look, that weird year last year for Atlanta, you've got a new coach, you've got new pieces, and you've got the return of Joseph, right? So that's got to be a team that you legitimately give a chance to. And how can you? And we saw it last year too, where I don't think a lot of people thought New England would make much of a run, but you've got Bruce Arena in a playoff situation, right? So how can you kind of bet against him? So I think those are a handful, but again, this is a league of great parity, right? And I think we had that we've seen that a little bit too with Ernst Tanner's discussions, and that kind of made the waves on social media just about the league and the competitiveness of it. Philly, you got to put them in the mix as well, right? So I think it shapes up to be a very interesting season from week one right until the end.
Well, and you mentioned all these teams that are MLS Cup contenders. I would also posit that the East specifically, you'll probably have more teams in the discussion to get into the playoffs than you will teams that won't be in the discussion to get in the playoffs. I'm thinking that the East is going to be pretty crazy with the depth that is there. And the West, you're probably going to have, it won't be as crazy, but I still think that you'll have a lot of folks chasing after that 6 and 7 spot going into the postseason.
Oh, definitely. And maybe in other years, like Cincinnati's expansion year, right? You had a pretty good idea that they weren't going to be part of that playoff picture. Orlando for all those years as well. But can you really say that with Austin, right? I mean, I think on paper they look like a legit team. You've got MLS players. You've got even guys. I think they were so smart to combine some of their players in the attacking third and have them on loan in the same team a year ago, right? So they already start to build a chemistry. And, I've seen firsthand what Claudio Reyna has done in New York in building a team. And you've got to put them up there. I mean, you certainly can't overlook them. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, Cincinnati's been at the bottom, but they could be a different team this year as well, right? With Bresson and some of their new signings. So I think, you want to have great storylines week to week, and you want to have like unpredictability, and you absolutely get that with MLS, especially this year.
Yeah, it feels like there's only a couple of teams that I'm comfortable writing off right now, and I don't even know how far I want to write them off. Real Salt Lake, and look, I think it's a little understandable with the ownership situation. The league's committed to RSL. They're not going anywhere. I think everything sounds good about them staying in Salt Lake City, but yeah, they're a little handcuffed at the moment in spending and going out and get bigger players. And yesterday it felt like there was a lot of talk about DC and everything going on there, which is weird in the first week of the season to have Lucy Rushton as the new GM being talked about, have other changes in the front office. They still got to work on that roster as well. Hernan Losada is an exciting hire for me, but I don't think the roster fits what he wants, and I don't see them competing for a playoff team. To be a playoff
and how about
team.
him too right away saying, we're not fit. These guys aren't fit. And
Yeah.
How many weeks already are we into the pre? Like the first game is coming up on Saturday, man. Like that's crazy.
They're going to be a weird watch. I think they're going to be an interesting watch because of the way Losada wants them to play, but I don't know if they have the players to do it. Neither one of those two, though, for me, feel like the manager's on the hot seat. Who do you think is on the hot seat going into the season?
Who's on the hot seat? That's a great question. Because the thing is, like, you've had so much turnover, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, Red Bulls have a new coach. I don't think you could put Juarez on the hot seat in Salt Lake because of all those situations that are out of his control.
What about like Vancouver or NYC?
No, I think Ronnie Dial is in he's fine. I think again, this is a team that's been handcuffed with injuries. They've kind of changing a little bit of their situation. You lose Alex Ring, or I mean, you let's be honest, they got rid of Alex Ring, they got rid of Ronald Matarrita. So I think there's time there for him to build, and also, I mean, you hear it around, right? I mean, his first year, the pandemic, the all those situations, I think you certainly give him a pass for a year ago. And, they were one wild penalty shootout away from beating Orlando and advancing on. And honestly, they should have won that game.
It's true.
I think Dos Santos, I think they're building under him in Vancouver. So I think he's got the time. I don't know. It's Jaap Stam as well. Just got it. Like,
finally got some spending.
You try to think of the teams that are going to struggle, right? But these are all spots where there are coaches who are new and involved, like, if Houston doesn't do well, it's only Tab Ramos's second year, right?
Mm-hmm,
Luchi Gonzalez is got so many great young players at FC Dallas. So in a strange way, I don't think you can really put anyone right now. I mean, new coach in Toronto, new coach in LA. I don't think anyone really at the start. I mean, it's kind of a boring answer, I guess, but I don't think anyone at the start is really on the hot seat.
Well, then let me give you another theory here, but it's for the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
If LAFC, and I'm going by what we were talking about just a second ago with LAFC, if LAFC doesn't win the big games again, fall short in the playoffs again, how much pressure is Bob Bradley under after this season because of what LAFC hasn't done as opposed to what he's been able to build?
I think that's a great point. I think he would be under significant pressure. And also, how does the other team in town do this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
With Greg Vanny there. So I don't think they're going to do well because I still think defensively there's not a well put together team. I think all the pieces of the puzzle I still don't think fit. Chicharito is obviously a huge question mark at the start of this year. They lost arguably their best player in Pavone, but I think if LA Galaxy get out to a great start and they play well, and like you said, if LAFC doesn't win at the end, then you got to start wondering, right? I mean, they won the Shield, but in the MLS playoffs, when it matters the most, they've come up short. They lost in the Champions League final. So for sure, I think you got to start wondering then. I think that it's strange to think, right? Like LAFC having a coaching problem, or like having a new manager there. But yeah, that could certainly be one. And man, if we've already seen crazy names pop up for all these other coaching jobs, can you imagine the names that would pop up for LAFC?
That'd be a fun one. That would be a fun one if that job's on the market. I mean, and look, this is Vela's last year.
Is that where Jose comes in? Does Jose come in?
Oh, that'd be fascinating. It'd be so different from the way they've tried to build that team on the field, but he loves LA.
He does.
It's going to be weird because, this is Vela's last year under contract, and there hasn't really been any talk about him coming back. I can't imagine Diego Rossi there even all year this year. I feel like you're going to have to make that move. So it in some ways, it feels a little bit like the last ride for LAFC, and they've got to get something out of one of the best launches to an MLS club in the league's history. But the Supporter Shield so far, and a CONCACAF final, which I think is a big accomplishment, that's all they have to show for it. I think the pressure is on Bradley a little bit this year.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because, like you said, Rossi out. You get Atuesta's been talked about, right? You have, it's one thing to build all these young or get all these young players from South America and Latin America and combine them with Vela, but at some point, those guys are going to be gone, and you've got to start to sort of rebuild or rework your team a little bit. So yeah, no, I think a major title, and the one that they'd have to win is certainly MLS Cup. Outside of that, it could be very, very interesting out in LA this year.
A topic a lot of people have been talking about in our chat on Twitch is Newcomer of the Year. Who are some of the newcomers in the league that you're excited to see hit the pitch?
Good question. I mean, there's a bunch. Like I said before, Cincinnati, right? Like, could I mean, he's not a newcomer, right? But like, you bring in Acosta, and then you've got Bresson there. Like, how's that combination going to work?
Yep.
So excited there. Even in Atlanta, right? Like you've technically got like a newcomer where he was there at the end of last year, but now give Moreno an opportunity for a full year, right? And now have him play with Joseph, so he's not technically like the newcomer year kind of situation, but I feel like that's interesting. And then And even up here, like, Red Bull's got a couple of new guys. You got a new coach as well. But I think if I was to say one, maybe Bresson with Cincinnati, just because they've been so hamstrung with their attack. He could really be that kind of, shot of adrenaline or that new life that they could use, especially now entering a new stadium.
A lot of talk in the chat about Tomas Pochettino out in Austin. Really good, like not under the radar, but a signing that I think we're seeing a lot more in this league now. That the designated player signings, the big money signings, are always going to get the headlines. But a guy like Pochettino, sure. A guy like here, Santiago Sosa, that $3 to $6 million kind of transfer that it feels like MLS teams are being so much more active in. Those are the ones that, you followed this league for so long. Have you seen the same progression that I kind of feel like this is the logical step on from the TAM era, where TAM elevated the middle of teams' rosters? This feels like it can take it to the next level with, whether it's U22 initiative, whether it's just the way allocation money has shifted. You're seeing more of these, not number 1 and 2 and 3 signings on rosters, but 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and sometimes 9 and 10 that's elevating the play in the league.
Yeah, without a doubt. And look back to the beginning of designated player, right? With like Beckham and those guys. Like, you had such a divide, right? Where you had the one guy making like $6 million and everyone else making like $75,000 kind of thing, So it just didn't work. And slowly but surely the league has added additional money and resources. And you're right. I mean, I think that's when you get the upper tier and the middle tier of your team now to be making decent money and being attractive, as we're seeing, right, for Argentina and Paraguay and these other countries. One, because you could make some good money, you could play competitive football, but also, let's be realistic again, the league, as Garber said again yesterday, they aim to be a selling league, and we've seen it. Almiron obviously being a big sort of example for a lot of these younger players. So for sure, like you come here, you play for a few years. Diego Rossi, another example, right? And then you get sold out to Europe. So I think it only leads then to a better brand, and it's forcing teams as well, maybe who in the past, and we saw that last year too with like Sporting Kansas City and Columbus, who hadn't spent previously. Now they're being forced to spend, right? And even if it's not like you said on the top, a Zelarayan or a Polito, Milton Valenzuela you're getting, right? And that does cost a couple million as well. So I think it only increases the competitive nature and the brand of football that you're seeing.
Dylan Butler, MLSsoccer.com, hanging out with us for another couple of minutes here on Soccer Down Here. When it comes to teams flying below the radar, who should we be paying more attention to that we haven't been paying more attention to in years past because of levels of success? And it could be because of lack of media coverage, could be because of market size, could be because of whatever variable you want to throw in there. Who should we be paying more attention to this season that has flown below the radar in years past?
Well, I think there's a lot of question marks. The Red Bulls being maybe one that I think of immediately out here, right? Because they've really kind of changed their whole situation, right? A new coach. I mean, they're still in the same sort of a Red Bull football pressing type situation, but I don't think they've gotten as much attention. I think Orlando before, if this was last year, maybe Orlando would have been that team with Raya coming in, but now they've gotten the league's attention, I would say. I don't know. I mean, does Portland fly under the radar a little bit just because they're out west and maybe they haven't had as much success as Seattle? I think they've got a great setup there. Obviously, Valeri, in a similar boat you would argue as like a Vela, right? Like the clock is clearly ticking on him and how long he can continue to contribute at his level. But, I think, you think a lot of the bigger markets, they get it. LA, Toronto is obviously going to be a different situation. So I think, they obviously get the media attention in Canada, but I think they're a team to keep an eye out for this year, just because they've said right away, like, we're going to play our kids. You've got Josie and Michael, but they're obviously up there. So I think, even though they're a team that gets the attention, I think it'll be a different look, right, for them this year. Like, I think they're a team to keep an eye out for with Chris Armas there. And we already saw in the Champions League, right? I mean, it was kind of forced because of injury, but they used so many young players, and they ended up getting a really positive result against Lyon in their first match away from home as well.
Let's finish with Champions League. It was such a good start in the first legs for the MLS teams. No one lost. You've got the second legs at home, or in Toronto's case, at least hosting kind of in Kissimmee. How excited are you? Does this feel like a different era for the Champions League? I mean, you've got the potential, and I think this could fly under the radar a little bit. I'll be curious to see how it plays out if it is Atlanta and Philadelphia in a CONCACAF quarterfinal, over two legs. That should be huge. That would feel like such a big story. Do you think it'll get the attention that it'll deserve here in this country with CCL?
I hope it does, because you see it with UEFA, and I followed the Champions League from the very beginning. Back in the day, like Juan Pablo Angel was on the Red Bulls. I was in Trinidad, like they played W Connection. Like it was so cool just to be, on the ground and covering a Champions League game, especially in its early stages. And there's been so many close calls, and like you use the word potential, and it's so scary, right? Like, because it's what CCL fever is all about. You want to get excited, and you want to think this is the year. And even last year, right? You saw LAFC, and you're like, this could be it, right? Mm-hmm. They could be the team, and then they weren't, And there's been so many close calls. I think though the excitement, unfortunately, kind of comes from those Liga MX MLS battles, right? Yeah. So I don't know if like in Atlanta, Philly, although it 100% should get the attention and the excitement because of what's at stake. I think if that was Club America and Philly, right, I think that would maybe get juices flowing a little bit more, unfortunately, I think. Yeah. But I think an all MLS matchup maybe doesn't excite people as much as one of those Liga MX matches. But when you look at the teams that are left, I hate to do it because I love Chris Armas, but I think you could see 4 out of the 5 teams advancing. I don't know if Toronto's going to do it, because when you look at the roster, like Club Lyon was like, we're bringing all our big dogs, like we're coming, and it's like an injury plagued Toronto team that was only, yes, you got the away goal, but I'm concerned about them for the second leg. But the other teams, how can you, Atlanta, especially, you got the U23 team, it sounds like, right, of Alajuelense coming up here, and then the other teams as well. So I think you could see 4 teams advancing, and the chances again for the first ever MLS team are strong. I loved guys when Caleb Porter immediately after winning an MLS Cup, like the next day, right, probably still hungover, not slept, said, no, listen, the goal is, we know that no one's won this and we want to win this. Like right away, he turned the page and said, we want to win the Champions League. And I think that aspiration, and then you continue it, like you guys were saying, with the signings they made, and they just made a very, very good team even better. I think that's exciting for the Champions League. I think you've got to have the fever, right? The Champions League fever, it nothing beats it. And I've got it. And hopefully that continues for a month or so longer. Yeah,
Columbus and Monterrey in the next round could be a lot of fun. Portland and Club America could be a lot of fun. if it's Leon, and I'm kind of with you, I think they have to be considered the favorite over just a beat-up Toronto team. Cruz Azul in maybe the best form that we've seen Cruz Azul in a long time. And then it could be, if things go the way that the first legs did, Atlanta and Philly in a quarterfinal to face the winner of that Portland Club America matchup in a semi later in the year. This is really setting up to be a special Champions League. I can't wait to see it play out.
Agree. But I think what you were saying, right, all those other matchups, I think, unfortunately, will take some of the spice maybe away from that potential Philly-Atlanta matchup. Although, I'm in for it all.
Yeah, we'll get the Atlanta side of it, talking it up big, and we've got some Philly folks who pay attention to SDH, so I'm sure we can get a little bit of trash talk back and forth and try to elevate that one in the public
that's going to definitely happen. There's no doubt about that.
It'll be a fun one.
There's opinionated fan bases on both sides.
No, surely you did.
That is definitely the case. Dylan, let everybody know where they can follow all your work.
Yeah, so MLSsoccer.com. I'm on Twitter. It's Dylan_Butler. And yeah, that's how we're gonna roll.
Excellent. Well, we're gonna roll with you hanging out with us as much as possible this season to keep up with everything going on around the league. So much excitement about Atlanta this season, but there's a lot of questions that we get on a regular basis about what's going on out west, what's going on with this team, looking ahead to future opponents. So, trying to grow the league-wide conversation. You're going to be a big help to us this year. So thanks for taking some time.
Of course, boys.
We'll talk to you soon, Dylan. Have a good rest of the day.
All right, guys. You too.
Be good.
All right, Dylan Butler. Make sure you're following him on the socials. Dylan_Butler. Like I said, the master of the preview at MLSsoccer.com. Always been a big help as I get into preparation mode for things and such. We have a little bit of audio that friend of the show, Stephen Glass, his first day at Aberdeen, he spoke to Red TV. His quarantine is completed. He's able to put on the gear and step foot at Cormack Park and get this team ready for a big Scottish Cup match this weekend. Here's Stephen Glass from Red TV in Scotland.
Stephen, it took a little longer than maybe we would have liked, but you're finally in the hot seat. How does it feel?
Feels good. Took a little bit longer than I would have liked as well. Watching from a distance, watching the team doing well, which has been great. So just can't wait to get our teeth into it now.
How's your first morning been? Has it been nice to you?
It's been great, yeah. Meeting the people that are around the training ground and things like that. A few familiar faces. Some of the lads are in doing a bit extra, which is great to see already. So I know the work ethic of the group, and like I say, can't wait to get going.
See your first morning, Stephen, but I mean, I know in isolation you have been working, haven't you?
Yeah. Able to watch the training as well, so I've been watching the group training, keeping an eye on the games, getting ahead of the opponents that are coming up as well. So there's a lot of footage that you can take and get on top of, so we've been planning that a little bit through remotely with Alan as well, and then able just to prepare as best as we can.
That full interview is on Red TV. If you're a subscriber and Atlanta United season ticket holders have access to that, go check it out. First game is this weekend in the Scottish Cup. We'll talk a little bit more about it as we get closer. There's been a lot of questions on the Atlanta United 2 side about Henry Apalou and what's next for him. It's kind of an interesting spot because a lot of times we see assistant managers go with the head coach that they've worked with. And in this Aberdeen situation, there's already a lot of coaches at the club who are there, and it's midseason, so it's kind of a weird spot. Henry would be a huge asset to any team he's with, and whether that's staying here in Atlanta with Atlanta United 2 as part of a reorganized staff or eventually making the way to Aberdeen to reunite with Stephen Glass, Henry was a big part of the work that Stephen put in, not just with the twos previously, but with the first team. And the thing that I always heard from players and staff was that Stephen and Henry were the first guys in the building every day, and they were the last guys of the technical staff to leave, just grinding to try to find ways to get more points, try to find ways to get more wins, and for the team to play better. So it's going to be fun to watch Stephen, but I'm also very curious to see what happens with Henry and where he ends up.
Yeah, early numbers on juice boxes, and obviously this will change as we go. Early juice box numbers are in Aberdeen's favor at a +131 going up against Livingston this weekend It is Saturday afternoon, our time, 12:30 kick against Livingston. Livingston's a plus 192. Your draw's north of plus 220. So Stephen Glass and Aberdeen, the early favorite this weekend.
All right, Mateo is getting a workout today. Let's get Mike Conti on the line for a little bit of Atlanta United talk, as Atlanta and Alajuelense will be in Fifth Third Bank Stadium in Kennesaw. Mike and I will not be on the call, unfortunately, for radio, but there's going to be a lot to talk about before this game, Mike, and we'll be on the 92.9 The Game Facebook page. There'll be a lot to talk about afterwards, hopefully in a positive sense. And we're only a few days away from the start of the MLS season, so it's all ramping up.
Yeah, I know. And Heinze said yesterday that they really haven't even looked at Orlando yet because they're just kind of all in on this one. So very busy week up there in Marietta. And hopefully it'll be a positive night tonight. I think it's unfortunate that the conversation over the last 24 hours has gotten very, very negative. You know, I don't even know really how to feel about it because on one hand, I do feel bad for Alajuelense and the predicament that they're in. But on the other hand, am I wrong in thinking that this is something they could have planned ahead for?
Nope.
I think so. I mean, we don't really know, but the proclamation that was issued by the White House was in late January. The draw for this tournament was in early February. You knew when you were coming to Atlanta. You knew when Costa Rica was playing internationally.
Right.
I mean, at a minimum, shouldn't we have heard Alajuelense trying to talk to their domestic federation in Costa Rica about, hey, do you really need Brian Ruiz for these games?
Now help me out with this part because I've seen some conflicting tweets about this. Could they have refused the call-up?
No, not for a friendly. And this was something that we went into. I think that has changed over the years because I thought that as well. You can refuse a call-up if it's outside of a FIFA window. This was not. This was part of a FIFA window. So they couldn't refuse the call-up. But they absolutely could have lobbied the Federation about, you know, it's one thing on a player like Barlon Sequeira, who's a young player trying to break through. Costa Rica wants to see him ahead of Gold Cup, ahead of CONCACAF Nations League semifinals this summer. I get it. Brian Ruiz is 35. He's got a ton of caps for the national team. They know who Brian Ruiz is. They don't need to see him in a game against Bosnia and Herzegovina and against Mexico to know what they're working with there. It would have been much better, I think, for him, also for Alajuelense, if he hadn't made that trip and not then been ruled out of this. I don't know. The way things lined up, I feel like Alajuelense might have got caught a little bit with just the increased difficulties of getting these things sorted out.
What stinks, and I hate it, but I also want to point out that's not Atlanta United's fault.
Oh,
and that's,
no.
And that's not really even CONCACAF's fault. And I just feel like some of the rhetoric over the last 24 hours has been, well, it's on Atlanta United to postpone then.
No, they don't have any say in that.
That's not correct. I don't think that's correct. It's unfortunate. I think, and Heinze kind of tiptoed around it yesterday, but I hope I'm understanding what he meant correctly. I think Atlanta United would rather play these guys if they were at full strength than the alternative, which is tonight. I mean, no one really wants to see this, but I kind of cringe a little bit when I see, well, this is unfair. This is unfair, and they should move this. Well, you know, Atlanta United, they had players out last Tuesday, you know, for one reason or another, who were unable to go to Costa Rica. So, unfortunately, this is part of international competition right now. A lot of Atlanta United's issues came down to fitness and health and all of that, but everyone's going through it right now. So, I just, the situation stinks, but I hate that there seems to be some rhetoric now that Atlanta United is obligated to accommodate the situation for Alajuelense. No, it's not on Atlanta United. These fixtures were set months ago, and we heard Carlos Bocanegra talk about in February the challenges that Atlanta United would be going through if Lennon and Robinson and Bello were called into the U23 camp about, potentially not having them available for Costa Rica. Now, that or for going to Alajuelense. Now, that is a call-up that Atlanta United would have refused. But it just proves that they knew all the way back in February that this was a potential problem. So what do you do if you're Alajuelense? You work the problem. You have 2 months to work the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make this a thing 24 hours before kickoff.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think that waiting until the end, hoping that the result was going to be different, it's counterproductive. You have all of this runway to work with, and I think it's partially Alajuelense's fault for not going down the runway starting 2 months ago. I think it's partially the Federation's fault for not assisting them in this and giving them the advice that's like, no, you better start working on this now, or at the same time, okay, tell you what, we'll do you a solid. We won't call up Brian Ruiz, or we won't call up player X, Y, or Z to help you in this as you're going to be plotting to play in Champions League. And perhaps even the advice of CONCACAF in this situation. It's like, okay, because of the schedule that these teams have, MLS is kind of locked in place here with their scheduling.
Right.
You guys need to kind of think things through from the absolute beginning here so you don't get caught in the situation that you're caught in. So I think that there's a couple of different directions you can go here.
Yeah, and I think you bring up something that I was trying to allude to, and I think I just got trapped in my thoughts doing some multitasking this morning. Every year, MLS is at a competitive disadvantage in CONCACAF Champions League because of the league schedule. Okay? So you don't hear Don Garber and you don't hear the technical directors and the presidents of these MLS clubs saying, well, we need to postpone these matches because we're not in form yet. MLS is always impaired going into this competition every year because of its schedule. They're coming into this tournament cold against teams that have been playing for months. Again, it's an unfortunate situation with Alajuelense, but everyone in this competition is going to be disadvantaged in some way. It's just kind of the way it is, unfortunately. So I hope we have a great match tonight. I think we're going to have a great match. I think it's going to be really competitive. I think the Alajuelense players who are going to be available are going to fight like crazy. There's a lot of pride on the line for them tonight, and I just hope that this doesn't sully and kind of mar what I think is going to be a really, really good night of international soccer in Kennesaw.
Yeah, I hate that this is the narrative. I think anybody blaming Atlanta United or even the U.S. government in this situation are missing the point. CONCACAF as a whole oversees the competition. They could have set different parameters. They could have set parameters that if the country that you are in does not allow teams from other countries to have their full complement of players for whatever reason, then the game's got to be moved. They could have set that. Other confederations have. There's a lot of different things that they could have done differently. There's a lot of things I think Alajuelense could have done differently. There's a lot of things the Costa Rican Federation could have done differently with their national team and hurting two of their teams. And Saprissa is going to be missing Kendall Waston, and Alajuelense is going to be missing 4 players. The Honduran player, really not much you can do there. All of it's unfortunate. All of it is difficult for Alajuelense. None of it is Atlanta United's problem. They have to go out and take care of business here. Defensively, it's a new goalkeeper. It's the number 2 goalkeeper. But the back line, I think the holding midfield, pretty much first choice here for Alajuelense. But they need goals, and they're going to have a different lineup up top. All that means to me, and I want to hear what you think, Mike. I think it puts more of an onus on Atlanta United to come in all guns blazing early and put this thing away and not let a different collection of players for Alajuelense build up any kind of rhythm.
I agree. It kind of reminds me a little bit of 2 years ago against Herediano. Now, Atlanta United had to play with a lot more urgency in that leg, the home leg against Herediano, because they were down 3-1 on aggregate. But, they scored in the first minute of that game. And Herediano was, I think, pretty rattled by that and ended up turning into a rout. Trying to remember last year against Motagua, I feel like the first goal may have happened right before halftime. Atlanta United really needed to work for it. But but there's a big emotional component to all of this tonight, especially if you're talking about Alajuelense U23s having to play in this match tonight. Just from a mental aspect, you're already down 1-0 and minus on the road goals. If Atlanta United scores in the first couple minutes tonight, they could do one of two things. Alajuelense could then play really, really free and urgently and attack and leave themselves open to counters, or it could cause Alajuelense to kind of mentally let down. So I think you're totally onto something, and I also think look, you don't have Guzan organizing your back line tonight. Rocco did a terrific job last Tuesday, but I think you want to take pressure off your young goalkeeper if you can. One way to do that is to get an early goal or two. So I'm with you. I think that's a really, really big key in this game tonight. And based on what I saw last Tuesday, I don't expect Atlanta United to come out and play overly tactical off the kickoff in this game tonight. I think they're going to be right on the front foot, right on it. And that would be a very, very, very good strategy for them tonight.
One thing that I think maybe the narrative's getting a little twisted too on the Alajuelense U23s, for example, how many players they'll have here and how many first-choice players they'll have. They've rotated a lot in league play over the Apertura and the Clausura. ESPN Costa Rica had a proposed 11 that actually had them in a 4-3-3 shape, which I think suits the players they have, which would be a big difference, and it could change the way Atlanta United plays. There was only one player in that group who I wouldn't consider a regular right now, 18-year-old Aaron Suarez, who is a very promising young player, but he's 18. He's only played in a handful of matches. Brandon Aguilera has come off the bench a lot. He'd probably have to go into the starting lineup. But you would be looking at a group that has a lot of quality in Jurgens Montenegro, who's one of the most promising young players in Costa Rica. A winger in Alonso Martinez, who I think is one of their best young players, almost double digits goals and assists over the last 30-plus games. And then you've got a couple of veterans in Cubero, who played in the back last time. I think he's got to go into the midfield in this one. And the Mexican Daniel Areola in the back, 35, who came over from Atlas. So it is not their first choice. They're missing firepower, but it's not a lineup that Atlanta United can come out and walk through. They're going to have to play at a good level tonight.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, there's pride. I mean, I know that sounds silly and kind of like a sports cliche, but I expect Alajuelense to play with a lot of pride tonight. A lot of pride. They kind of feel like they've been hard done, either by their federation or CONCACAF or Atlanta United. I don't know who. I mean, I'm sure they feel very hard done. They're going to be very, very motivated. And they'll play with nothing to lose tonight because they literally have nothing to lose. No one is expecting them to come into Kennesaw and get any kind of result, much less enough to move on to the quarterfinals. So they will play with a lot of emotion tonight, and I think Atlanta United needs to be ready for that. It's a tricky week. You're going to be managing two matches that are going to have very distinct vibes tonight and again on Saturday against very, very motivated opponents. And that, I think, is going to put some strain on Atlanta United, and I just hope they're ready for it. I think they are, based on what Heinze and Emerson Heinemann said to us yesterday in the press availability, but it's going to be really, really tough.
So then who do you think wears the armband to start things out tonight, Mike?
Well, when Guzan got sent off, he gave it to Lissandro Lopez, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are we 100% sure that Lissandro Lopez is going to be starting tonight?
75% sure?
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
So I think if Lissandro Lopez starts, he's got it. If he doesn't, then I don't know. It could be Heinemann, just because he got it after Lopez left the game. It could be Santiago Sosa. I could absolutely see that. I could see Miles Robinson wearing it.
I'd see Miles.
I could see George Bello wearing it. I mean, I don't know. It's unclear. It's really, really unclear. if Lisandro Lopez starts tonight, he's got it. Beyond that, I don't know.
Yeah.
So Magic 8 Ball says foggy.
Yeah, very foggy.
I wonder with Heineman doing media availability yesterday if maybe that was a hint.
Could have been. Yeah. We also haven't heard from him in a while.
Yeah.
So it could have been. I think it's for sure that Heineman's going to be in the starting 11 tonight. I think it's more that than anything else. I mean,
probably.
There are a couple guys that are, well, I think with Heineman, it's almost for sure because Josetu's not yet in the team. I think we know for sure Sosa's starting. I think we know for sure that Robinson is starting, that Bello's going to start. Yeah. Everything else could be up in the air. Like, could Ronald Hernandez start at right back tonight? Yeah, I can see that. If you're looking ahead to Saturday and you want to keep Brooks Lennon fresh. Could George Campbell get a start at center back tonight over Anton? I could absolutely see that.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with fitness or performance or anything. It's just kind of a rotation right now.
Well, and you've got Orlando to think about in a couple days.
100%. Yeah. Like, does Marcelino Moreno come in and start tonight?
I think so.
I can see that.
That's one that I think will definitely happen.
Does Jurgen Damm come in and move into the starting lineup and bump maybe Jake Mulroney? Yeah, I could see that. Like, there's a lot of different things I could see just from a rotational standpoint tonight. The guys that I think are locked in as starters are going to be Bello, Robinson, and Heineman, and that's probably why I think you saw Heineman doing the media availability.
It's funny, and I'll disagree with you on 2 of your 3 because, yeah, I mean, and it's just because I think we're getting to know what the rotations could look like, and with that Orlando game, I thought Bello looked a little tired late. If there's any concern with Bello being a little overworked, Mikey Ambrose can come in and give you what you need at left back. I wouldn't worry about that at all. So that's one maybe. Heineman, and this is where I could absolutely be overthinking it, and a lot of it is down to the tactics of this, because Alawalense has almost always, I don't even know if almost is accurate to include, every game that I've seen Alawalense play since I started tracking them, they've played in a 4-4-2. They've played 3 forwards up top. They only have one of them here. Venegas and Hernandez are not available tonight. Do they play somebody in a forward position who is not ordinarily a forward, or do they go with players in their normal positions and play 4-3-3, which is what ESPN Costa Rica and Kesher Gomez, who really covers the Costa Rican League very close, has a lot of connections. That was what he proposed. And I wonder if he maybe knew something. It matches up because you just don't have another forward, really. I mean, you could play Alonso Martinez in that role, but he's predominantly a winger. You could play one of your central attacking midfielders in that role, a little bit higher up the field. You can figure that out. But if you go with one up top instead of 2, you don't need Santi Sosa to drop into the back line like we saw last week. Mm-hmm. He can go into the midfield. But if you do go into it, and you don't know coming in, they play Martinez up high, and it's Martinez and Montenegro up high, and you've got to have 3 center backs. That's where Franco Ibarra is really nice to have. And I wonder if you could hedge your bets a little bit with Ibarra pairing up with Barco centrally if Moreno comes in and plays on the wing, and that means Heineman might come off the bench. That's the thing right now is, we haven't really – we've seen one game. We don't have a lot to go on yet, and this is a weird one with the situation with Alawalense to where, we really don't know how they're going to line up, and we don't know what kind of shape they're going to play, and that will affect what Atlanta does. Sosa gives you flexibility, but you'd like to have another somewhat defensively minded midfielder if Sosa has to drop into the back line.
Yeah. Yeah, it's reasonable, and I might be overthinking from a rotational standpoint as well, because you do have 4 days between tonight and going down to Orlando, and you're so early in the season, so early. Where I don't necessarily think you're worried about fatigue yet, and Marcelino Moreno, for example, hasn't played at all. Joseph Martinez has only played about 25 minutes. Alan Franco hasn't played at all. So you're fine. I mean, from a fitness standpoint, you're probably okay so far. I guess I'm applying a July argument to something that's happening too early.
Yeah, but we do know, somebody like Ronald Hernandez came in a little bit later. Maybe not at the same level of fitness. So, where you maybe would play him here, maybe he's not quite ready for that. Ibarra came in a little bit later. He gave you a lot of hard minutes last week. Do you maybe want to leave him out to keep him fresh? I mean, there's so many elements that we could go total nerd on here and go through and talk ourselves into about 30 different lineup combinations if we wanted to. Let's get past that, and what is the important thing on the field in the way Atlanta plays for you to get the result that they need? And I don't think they want to get through with a draw. I think they want to win tonight and build some momentum. What do they have to do well to make that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think A, they need to be tidy on the ball, but B, I think they just need to stay true to their philosophy, and that is to go out and attack. I'd be really, really disappointed if Atlanta United, and I just don't foresee this happening, but I'd be really disappointed if the mentality tonight is, hey, we've got that road goal in the bank. Let's go out there. Let's be careful. Let's put a lot of people behind the ball to maybe protect our goalkeeper. If we hit them once or twice on the counter, great, but we're just going to put everyone behind the ball. I don't see them doing that, but I'd be very disappointed if they did.
Yeah, I don't see that at all.
I think they just need to stay true to their philosophy. They were dominating that match before Guzan got sent off last Tuesday. Absolutely dominant, in total control of the match. Do that again. Come into it with the same tactical philosophy and don't get hurt. And I think you'll be absolutely fine. I really do. I don't want to undersell Alalense at all. But if you go out and you execute what you wanted to do last Tuesday and you were only able to for 43 minutes, I think Atlanta United not only comes out with the result that they need, I think they come out with a win.
And you will also have fans in the Fraction, Mike.
Yeah, right. I forgot it's action at the Fraction tonight. You're absolutely right.
There you go.
Yeah, and that helps too. I mean, that absolutely is going to help. Like I said, there's going to be a vibe to this match tonight. There's going to be a vibe to Saturday's match. It's been awfully tough, I'm sure, for these players playing in empty stadiums and training in empty training grounds. So I think that's going to be a real injection of energy tonight. And I'm envious of the people who are able to go to this match tonight because I think they're going to see a good one.
Okay, Mike, I'm going to ask you a question to take us over to Europe for a second. If you were the team administrator for Real Madrid and you win the first leg of the quarterfinals of the UEFA Champions League at home, people thought Liverpool was going to come in, take care of business. You win it at home. You're all kinds of banged up. You've had bad luck all year long. I think like 39 different people have been hurt at some point this season. Sergio Ramos isn't hurt. He still catches COVID somehow. So bad luck everywhere for Real Madrid. You're going to play in Liverpool. You're going to play in Liverpool on the 14th of April. Would you book the hotel in Liverpool, England, that is dedicated to, a little boat called the Titanic that sank on the night of the 14th of April? Tomorrow's night is the anniversary of the sinking? And you're playing Liverpool in Liverpool, and you're staying in that hotel?
Wow.
How can you do such a thing?
I guess they must not have thought of that.
You're inviting so much bad karma on yourself.
Oh, that is so much bad karma.
No,
I read that. I'm like, it blew my mind that this is now it's all over the Spanish media, and they're freaking out.
Yeah, that's funny. No, I honestly, those are the little details that probably don't get thought of or get forgotten in, crazy situations. So it definitely invites a little bit of, ill thoughts, but I have a feeling they'll probably be okay.
I don't know. We'll see if the action on Liverpool really changes now that they're cursed. Real Madrid is 100% cursed.
I mean, it's not like Little B, the base god, has cursed them. I mean,
the Titanic curse is pretty bad.
Well, there's no active live person that's cursing them.
That's true.
But there's that overhanging juju that you're looking at here, Mike.
No, I know. I'm sure they'll be fine. I would take that to the bank.
We'll see. Is there anybody that you are worried about from MLS being cursed like this going into the second legs? Do you worry about Philly? Do you worry about Portland today?
Portland a little.
Okay.
Toronto, I think, a little more.
Yeah. Toronto's a toss-up.
I think Portland should be okay. Should be. Again, they have road goals, so all they really need is a low-scoring draw tonight. Toronto's the one, just because I think they were underdogs going into that whole thing. Philly, I think, will be totally fine. So, and Columbus, I think absolutely no trouble there. I mean, Columbus could field a B team.
Yeah.
So, Toronto and to a lesser extent Portland. But I really think everyone's going to go through. I really, really do. This has been a very good week for MLS. And Don Garber talked about yesterday how, they want to do better in CONCACAF Champions League. They're off to a really good start. I mean, if everything goes the way that you expect, that either Atlanta or Philadelphia will be in a semifinal. So potentially with a favorable semifinal draw as well. So things are trending up for the league. It's been a good week. Everyone took care of business on the road. Toronto, I think, is going to have the hardest game this week, but I think everyone will be okay.
Yeah, I mean, looking at juice boxes, Toronto is by far the largest underdog coming into the next couple days when it comes to Champions League play. So, as dinged up as they are, let's see, they're north of plus 500 for this match against Leon coming up tomorrow.
That's a tough one. I mean, Josie Altidore, there was a little bit of news in the Toronto media that his MRI came back very good. His hamstring is just a bit inflamed. I feel like that's probably every day for Josie Altidore at this point. Feels like it with his hamstring. You need him because of those injuries. You need whatever you can get. It's going to be weird for Toronto, too, because it's a home leg, but it's at Osceola County Stadium in Kissimmee, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
A little different than BMO Field.
Yeah, a little. It'll feel neutral. But, then again, probably everything that happened last week felt neutral, aside from maybe Toronto, right? Leon did have fans. So we'll see. I think everyone's going through. I think Toronto would be the only one in any kind of really serious danger. But I've been proven wrong before.
We shall see. Well, we've got more coming up for you the rest of the day. What, about 4:45? Is that a safe time to tell people to be on the lookout for us?
That is not a safe time.
That is not a safe time.
Let's when you're done, let's text and figure out a good time, because I will be en route to the arena at 4:45.
We will regroup because the game's at 6. It's weird it being a 6 o'clock kick.
We'll be on before the game. I just don't think at 4:45. Okay. So when we're done, shoot me a text and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and it'll be at facebook.com/929thegame. It'll be a stoppage time pregame edition. And then we'll have watch along here at SDH like we normally do. We'll have a separate post-game show. We'll get that out on the app and get that out as a podcast as well. And then we have stoppage time tomorrow, and then we get ready for Orlando. And it's good. It's a big week.
Business about to pick up.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun, really, and we'll have that on the radio Saturday at 2:30. So really looking forward to that. And like I said, hopefully everyone stays healthy tonight. We can have a good competitive game without all the overtones of everything else that's been talked about over the last 24 hours.
Carlos with a really good question to end on, Mike. Will this be the first game without a weather delay at Kennesaw State?
Well, no, I don't remember a weather delay for Motagua or Herediano.
No, I don't think we did.
Nor do I remember a weather delay for Charleston in 2018. I've done 3 games at Kennesaw, and none have been delayed.
Well, then you're the good luck charm here, because John and I have had plenty of delays with the 2s.
Why, yes, we have.
Bring your umbrellas tonight, because I will not be there.
Oh, yeah. And John will be there, so forget it. Bring umbrellas. You'll see a pop-up shower in the vicinity.
Yeah. Then we'll know that you guys are the...
well, I won't be there, so then we'll know that John is the jinx.
Yeah. Well, see, there you go, John. There you go again.
Yes, exactly.
It's because of the whole salt and pasta thing. That's all it is.
That's right.
It's payback
All right,
for that.
guys.
We'll see you, Mike.
See ya.
Mike Conti 929. Make sure you are following him on the social medias. Let's finish up with what's on Twitter. Anything we need to get into, John?
No, actually, one thing from Tafka that will catch us up. He says, "What's the chance LAFC lose Vela for nothing?"
I would say somewhat decent because he's out of contract. We haven't heard a thing about a renewal. He will be in demand. He will be in demand from Mexican clubs who can offer him a very nice salary. So could LAFC. But I have not heard a word about him doing a new deal at LAFC. So I will say odds. 4-1 that he walks on a free.
Okay, so plus 400.
Sure. And I would be I would take that.
Okay.
I would take that. I think he's going to get an offer that he will have a hard time to say no to. And I know there was some conversation in the Twitch pitch about what that could look like and where he could go, and he wouldn't go to Club America because he's a Chivas product. I'm not so sure on that. I think there were a lot of sweet nothings whispered last year during the CONCACAF Champions League and the possibility of him going to Club America. And I think you do have to keep in mind that Santiago Solari, who knows La Liga very, very well and would be very, very familiar with Vela from his time in La Liga, is the man in charge there now. And, yeah, I could see him at Club America. I absolutely could see him there. So Somebody's going to put a fat contract in front of him. Will LAFC do it? I don't know. Maybe that depends on how this year goes. I think this year's a bit of a referendum for LAFC. I think a lot of the conversation is still sunshine and flowers when it comes to LAFC. And the choke job in 2018 against RSL in the postseason is forgotten about. The constant losses to the LA Galaxy, forgotten about. The just disappointment in big games is forgotten about. And when you're at the end of an era, and it feels like it kind of is, with Rossi got to go at some point, with Vela in the last year of his deal, it is a referendum, and there needs to be pressure on LAFC. And I think they're going to feel it because I don't think they're going to have it easy in the Western Conference. One team we didn't talk about with Dylan is Minnesota.
Yes.
Who, with Wanchope Avila, with Reynoso for a full year, I really think Minnesota can win the West. I think Sporting, if Alan Pulido stays healthy, can win the West. I think Portland, getting close to the end of an era with Diego Valeri at 35, with Blanco at 33 coming back from a knee injury, this could be the last ride for them. I am down on Seattle a little bit, but they could do something in the summer and change that perspective. LAFC's the one that I don't think it's a guarantee because out of those teams we just talked about, Minnesota's there with them in terms of goalkeeper strength. You know, Seattle, one thing you can't count on is Stephen Fry. I think you can count on Steve Clark in goal for Portland for the most part. Tim Melia, not really too worried about it. Minnesota, you got to have the goalkeeper prove himself. LAFC, that's been the issue from year one. That's been the issue the whole time. I don't trust the goalkeeper. I don't trust the back line to be good enough for them to win an MLS Cup. And if they don't win MLS Cup, there should be a lot of criticism because they weren't there just to have sunshine and flowers in the black and gold in Los Angeles. They were there to win trophies. And the Supporter Shield is the least prestigious of the trophies that they could win. Yep. And that's the only one they got.
Yeah, and that was why I wanted to bring that up with Dylan about Bob Bradley and LAFC, because we've seen them, you know, short of the appearance in the final against Leon in CONCACAF Champions League. They've always fallen short. It's been a team that has out-physicaled them in the postseason, whether in RSL, and then you go back to Seattle, and they've always fallen short of their own expectation. And that was why I wanted to bring up Bob Bradley as a part of the discussion this morning when we were talking about hot seat with LAFC.
Yeah, question from Carlos. Did Minnesota replace Molino? They didn't really need to. I mean, they did in a way with Avila. Different position, but I think the impact will be similar to what you got from Molino. I think when you go into the season with Avila up top, with Reynoso in that 10 role, with Ethan Finley and Robin Lod out wide, and Lod was really good last year. I think he's somebody that doesn't get talked about enough because he came in, needed a little bit of time to get going in this league. You're good with Finley and Lod. You're fine with them. Reynoso as the 10, great. Holding midfield, Gregush, Osvaldo Alonso. How much does he have left at 35? Don't know. You got Hassani Dotson, who's going to play a significant amount centrally. You've got Ja'Cory Hayes into this team now who can play centrally. You got Will Trapp, who can be your possession-based number 6 if you want to play in that way. Minnesota front 6, no problems at all. Back 4, it's good. Roman Metzner on the right, good. Chase Gasper on the left, good. Center back, we don't know about Ike Opara. We don't know what's going on there. We don't know what that situation is. There hasn't been an update that I've heard, Sam Williamson. And Michael Boxall, solid. Brent Coleman, solid. They added Callum Montgomery. Do we see him take a big step forward? Do we see Yuka Ryatala play centrally? Debasi, solid. I really like their draft pick, but he's not going to be ready to contribute yet, in my opinion. Nabi Kibanguchi, he was one that was on my list for Atlanta to consider as a center back. But he's not ready yet. The Ike Opara situation could be a big question mark in Minnesota. The goalkeeper one is a question mark, too. Tyler Miller was brought in to be the guy. He wasn't really the answer in L.A., but he was pretty good. Does he take a jump? Dane St. Clair ended up being really good last season. Mm-hmm. Does he keep the job? Goalkeeper we want to see a little bit with there. Carlos said he had heard somewhere that Ike's problem was with concussions. I think that's the speculation, and it would make sense. He has had a concussion history. It hasn't really been addressed by the team, and I understand. I mean, if it's concussions, which would make the most sense, it's kind of hard to address because there's not an easy answer. You know, it's not like you can say, that's 4 to 6 weeks. He'll be back in a month. He'll be back in 2 months. We're going to do this and fix it. You can't. And it can be really difficult. When I had my concussion, I mean, it's just you don't know how long it's going to take. You feel like you have a good day. You do a couple of things, then it goes south, and then you're feeling awful, and it's just really difficult. And to be at the stage of his career, you know, Ike Opara is thinking long-term as well at 32 years old. So it's a shame because Ike's been one of the great center backs in this league, but I don't know what his future holds. And it will hurt them defensively if he is not available again. You've got good pieces, but somebody's going to have to step up and give you what you thought you got with Ike Opara coming to this club. Can that be Debasi? Can that be, I mean, Coleman at 30 kind of is what he is. Boxall's really solid, but he was going to be the number 2 guy to Ike Opara as the 1. Does Boxall become the 1? Does somebody else become the 2? I want to see how that plays out. I think Minnesota will score a lot of goals, though.
Yeah.
But they could get caught in those games that get tight and get difficult in the playoffs late in the year. Big games, especially on the road, like this opener on Friday in Seattle. Are they good enough defensively in a game or they can't just outgun you? They're going to have to answer that question. I think they can, but they're going to have to answer that question. Final questions from those of you on the Twitch pitch. Please send them in right now. Thanks to everybody new who is hanging out. We've got some new followers. If you're not following us on Twitch, you'll get the notifications of when we get crazy and decide to go live, when we're watching a game on the weekend. It will get a little weird going into the MLS season now, and Saturday will be a prime example with our airtime for 92.9 The Game being at 3 o'clock. Saturday morning might be a little bit shorter. It might be a little different. There might be some Saturday mornings where we have an earlier game that we don't have a smorgasbord. It might be more of the Gambetta later. It might be a Soccer Down Here asado for MLS coverage and watch-alongs and such. So follow us on Twitch to make sure you get the latest notifications. We try to throw those out on Twitter as well. At Soccer Down Here is where you can follow us there. You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on Facebook. Keep up to date with everything we're doing. One of the things we're doing is a Soccer Down Here fantasy league. and that will start with week 2. But go ahead and get your team in. Go ahead and get active with that team so you can build up some equity in it, build up some roster value in it so you have more room to work with. That first week can be really important. So get signed up with your team, then go to the links from the Jason Wright Agency, Jason Wright, AGEN on Twitter. If you're a subscriber, we've put it in the Discord, we've put it in the Twitch pitch, we've retweeted it, we've shared it everywhere, but you've got time. You've got time. You need to be in there before week 2, but get your team started so you can start to build that up.
Got my team started.
Oh, boy.
And it includes Santiago Sosa.
Okay, we'll talk about your team on Thursday. The season starts on Friday night, and we'll get into that. Okay, let's get into questions from the Twitch pitch to wrap up. Perfect Tommy, comment. Kind of irks me that the team with the most points doesn't win the league, but I guess we're never going to get a balanced schedule. Perfect Tommy, speaking on behalf of the Philadelphia Union fan base with that one. It's just you can't get a balanced schedule. So, and this is always going to be a league with playoffs. And look, I mean, for me, Mexico has playoffs. They have a greater percentage of teams going into the postseason than MLS does. You've got a lot of South American leagues that are doing playoffs. A lot of CONCACAF leagues do playoffs. Costa Rica has a weird playoff system where if you win the season, and they do the Clausura Apertura type of setup, if you win the season, but then you lose in the playoffs and don't win the playoff tournament, which is like a Final Four, then you get an extra opportunity in a Grand Finale.
Yes.
So you get a bonus shot at it. Okay. Honduras has done like I think a pentagonal format of a group stage with 5 teams. I mean, you've got all kinds of weird playoff formats. Uruguay, I'm not even going to try to explain to you because it gave me a headache trying to figure this thing out. And Nacional ended up winning the full year playoff, but you had other winners of the Apertura and the Clausura and a intermediate tournament and then a big overall table, and it's like Uruguay has about 512 trophies in any given year. So MLS is pretty straightforward, but it's a playoff-based league. It just always will be, and with the size of it, I think it always has to be. And Tommy says playoff TV money, and I agree with that. I think playoff intensity and playoff headlines is another element. I love the postseason in this league. Every game, I mean, obviously means a lot because you go home if you're knocked out. I'd rather see 2 legs. I can deal with what we have, even though I'd rather see 2 legs. It's exciting, and it's one of the great things about the league, in my opinion. I wish Supporter Shield was a more equitable trophy. I do like that it has standing in CONCACAF Champions League, and it gets you in. That's good. I don't know what else you can really do for it. I am glad they awarded it last year. I was back in Philadelphia on that. They deserve to have it awarded because, man, it was a crazy season. They deserve something out of it.
Yes.
Score prediction, Shiva is asking about tomorrow. So share yours in the Twitch pitch. John, what's your score prediction for, not tomorrow, for tonight?
I was going to say, tomorrow?
You can give a score prediction for tomorrow anyway. Go ahead. Ha.
Manchester City 2, Dortmund 1. There you go.
Of course you're going to go with the English snob pick and not a CONCACAF game tomorrow.
Well, you said, okay.
It's the only thing that matters is the game involving the English team. What's your score prediction for tonight? That's more important.
I'll go 3-1 Atlanta United. I think that they're in control early, and I think that something happens on a set piece to make it, I think it's 3-0, and I think it's a late set piece at 3-1 probably in the last 10 minutes.
3-0 is what I got. 2 goals in the first half. I think you break their will. You get a couple goals. You coast through the second half. You get to rest players who need rest. You get to give minutes to guys who could use the minutes, like a Tyler Wolff, like a Machop Chol. And you get out of here comfortably, and you get ready for the winner of Philadelphia and Saprissa, and you get ready for Orlando. Will, with a funny joke in the Twitch pitch, do we know how they're distributing the 3 CONCACAF slots for the 2025 Club World Cup? CONCACAF can't even figure out how to get full teams into countries right now. Do you think they figured out how to distribute something for 2025? They probably don't even have the memo yet.
No.
I don't know, like this whole thing with this 25 Club World Cup that's going to be expanded, but it's only going to be like that every 4 years to replace the Confederations Cup. It's dumb to me. Like if that's the only way you're going to do the Club World Cup and you're not going to do it the other times in the normal format, which my understanding is they are going to continue the normal Club World Cup, but you're going to have this bonus one. My guess would be the 3 last winners of the CONCACAF Champions League.
Yeah.
That's what I would do if you're going to do this. If it is going to be like year by year and this is the Club World Cup for that year and it's a bonus year and whatever, and who gets in, then I guess you're keeping it really simple. You're 2 finalists and the winner of a play-in game between your losing semifinalists. Yeah. But I don't know how they're formatting it. I don't know if it's going to be a 4-year time frame to qualify, or if it is just from the previous CONCACAF Champions League that you qualify. And I don't think CONCACAF has any clue what they're doing with it yet, because I think they're trying to figure out how to get this tournament done and then get their expanded CONCACAF Champions League done when it starts in 2023. So yeah. I don't even think they've thought of it yet, Will. Carlos, quick answer. Does Atlanta win its MLS opener on Friday? Do you want to answer that, or do you want to wait and make people wait, or on a Saturday? Do you want to make people wait until Friday?
Yes, I want to make people wait till Friday.
I'm going to do that too, Carlos, because I want to see what happens with tonight.
Yes.
You never know what can happen. Sam Williamson's wanting to steal people's login to watch games. I can't help you with that, but if there is theft going on in the Twitch pitch, I do not endorse it. If there's borrowing going on in the Twitch pitch, well, that's very kind of people.
If there are conversations
that's very
between
kind.
Twitch pitchers where you're talking about how to watch, have your conversations. Just nothing wrong with talking.
I'm doing the best I can.
That's going to be people trying to watch Atlanta United on streaming networks. Jason Nix, 2-0 Atlanta United. Barco and one of the Lopez's score. Shiva goes 2-0 as well. Thinks Lennon gets a goal. Martha, 3-1 Atlanta. Moreno, man of the match. Will, Dortmund is going through at you.
Of course.
English snob. Sam Williamson, 2-1. Joseph scores a brace, and the world is healed. Will also cites the City Champions League curse, says it's immortal. I think that's a bogus argument. They're not staying in the hotel that it's dedicated to the Titanic. They'll be okay. They're going to break that curse. Real Madrid, I think, has cursed themselves.
True.
Blitz says, I think we go through 2-1 on aggregate, so 1-1 tonight. Carlos, 3-0 tonight and 2-2 versus Orlando. We'll get into the Orlando talk. If you gave me that on paper, I don't hate it. I don't hate that at all. It's going to be tough. Thomas, yeah, I can see the logic in both with the Club World Cup. I can see what they could be persuaded to go in either direction. I do think the more games they can have in a Club World Cup capacity, they'll do it. So I think they'll do both. I just don't know how they treat the expanded one. Is it just the Club World Cup for that year where it's bigger, or is it like a special super duper Club World Cup where it's over the last 4 years and it's like its own trophy and what have you? The mega Club World Cup. I mean, come on. Let's do something really stupid with it, FIFA. Let's have fun. Sam Williamson wants to know if Nani is playing this weekend. He has been banged up in preseason. I don't think he's played in preseason, but I have not seen an update yet. And I'm assuming Oscar Pareja is not going to give that away until he has to, which would be in the lineup card. Badger Bob 4-1, and of course Joseph with the brace. A lot of people trying to figure out how this will look when it comes to this Club World Cup, and I don't know. Nick Alifi 2-0 tonight. Lopez and Barco, but which Lopez, Nick? Which one?
Which Lopez?
South Georgia United 3-0. Joseph with the hat trick. I don't know if he plays that much to get a hat trick. I'm not convinced of that just yet. I think it'll be a situation where he comes in the second half. I would love to see him get more time and then be ready to start on Saturday. I want Joseph lined up against Orlando because I want them to be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to be afraid of their bogeyman. That's what I want to see.
Father's coming to town.
Yes. You got business to take care of tonight, though, but that's what I want to see. Really cool shot. Arch Bell, who's a great follow on Twitter, shared it. Olympia and Club America. Olympia is in Mexico City for this, and Pedro Trollio is a former Argentine international who, takes being at the Estadio Azteca very seriously. He shared a picture that he sent his son on WhatsApp video from the Estadio Azteca to show him where Maradona scored his golazo against England in '86.
Very nice.
When we got to be on the field for the training session, before the training session last year, I made a beeline to that spot. I'm not going to lie. I went to that spot and took pictures because it was pretty cool. So Pedro has accomplished a whole lot more in the game than I have, but we're all big fans when it comes to Maradona and that kind of spot. It feels like feels a little bit like holy ground. It's pretty interesting. Will says Joseph can get a hat trick in like 15 minutes. He's not at 100%, so let's not put the expectations that high.
Let him get into a groove.
Not that high on Joseph. So George is like, it's going to happen quick, then he's going to get rest. So maybe if he gets a hat trick in 15 minutes, you guys got it. You guys got it. Public service announcement before we go. No appointment needed today to get your vaccine at the bins. No appointment is needed. You just show up. No. You just show up and get jabbed in your arm with the vaccine. All you got to do. It is that simple. Yes. Open till 10 p.m. That was yesterday. Till 9:30 to 6 today. That is your hours. You got time. You want to get vaccinated. Go to the bins. Just show up. You don't even have to do anything else. Just show up. And big-time props to Tormenta for being the first pro sports team to host a vaccine clinic during a game. Their home opener, you can get vaccinated at the game.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's some outside-the-box thinking from our friends down in Statesboro.
Yeah, and if you've already been vaccinated, you can show proof of it and get a ticket and get in the door for a discounted price. So it's all part of what is very, very cool down there in Statesboro, and it'll be great to catch up with our friends from Tormenta about the season as well and this initiative. And it's great stuff down there from them thinking outside the box and making sure that folks can get back to watching games. And here's a great way to do it at the same time.
Yeah, programming notes, Thursday night, 7 o'clock, USL kickoff roundtable here on Twitch. It'll also be available on the app. John will be the moderator for a roundtable with Darren Van Tassel of Tormenta, with Doug Irwin from Greenville Triumph, and with Mike Kelleher from the Charleston Battery. So roundtable, 7 o'clock Thursday night. We're not live on location this week. So John is your moderator to get us started with three very big USL clubs here in the region. And we'll talk about this scenario that Tormenta is doing. It's a very cool way to serve their community. Charleston has done a lot of amazing things in their community over the years, as has Greenville. That'll be part of it. The on-the-field part will be going on. The academy side and developing talent. So much to dig into. That's Thursday night at 7. Today, the rest of the day, 5-ish, somewhere in that ballpark, 5:15-ish. Mike has Hawks duty tonight. We are not doing the game on radio, but we will have a stoppage time game preview, and we'll talk about the lineup when it is unveiled. That will be on Facebook.com/929thegame. Make sure you're following both of us on social media. We'll let you know once we know a timing. I'm at Longshoe. Mike is at Mike Conti 929. A little bit before 6 o'clock, we'll be back here on Twitch, twitch.tv/soccerdownhere for those of you who listen on the app or listen as a podcast later. Come hang out. It is a watch-along. We will be watching the game together. I will kind of talk through some of the things I'm seeing, some of the things that are freaking me out, some of the things that I'm liking. We'll get into all that. We'll get John to pop in at halftime to give his thoughts from being at Fifth Third Bank Stadium. John will be back for postgame. Jarrett Smith is always lurking, so I'll say Celtic 3 times, and Jarrett Smith will pop up.
Celtic.
Yes, not right now. We're about to leave. So that is tonight. A little bit before 6 here on Twitch. We will have a postgame conversation as well. I know we're back tomorrow morning for a normal show. We got stoppage time tomorrow over at 92.9 The Game. I'm on with the midday show. It's madness. We got the run-up Friday. We got a game on Saturday. It's just it's craziness. The season is upon us. It's good times. Mm-hmm. Big game tonight. If you're going, enjoy it. Be safe. Mask up. Do all the things you got to do. Make some noise as much as you can to make up for the people who aren't there and aren't able to be there. Socially distanced. Follow the rules, follow the guidelines, but support the team. Make as much noise as you can. We will hear you on the broadcast, and can't wait to be calling a game on Saturday. We'll just be talking about it tonight on Twitch. So until then, y'all have a good rest of the day, and Mucha Plata, y'all.
Mucha Plata, y'all.